10 with the BBC News. I'm Anna Preston. The Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, says the government will spend what it takes to make safe schools in England. More than 100 schools have been ordered to shut fully or partially because of a faulty concrete used in classrooms. More than 50 schools in Essex have been involved in the crisis, with a number having to close. The Conservative MP for Witham, Dame Priti Patel, is calling for long-term solutions.
We're now only just understanding the scale of it all, and so inevitably government is having to step up in a very different way to actually put in resource, yes, investment and long-term investment. This isn't sticking plaster solutions, and we have to have long-term investment now to ensure that our schools are safe and secure going forward.
Government figures show that more than 870 migrants arrived in the UK in small boats yesterday, the highest number on a single day so far this year. Nearly 21,000 migrants have crossed the Channel since the start of the year. West Midlands police have been questioning a 33-year-old man about two separate fatal collisions with a car in Coventry. A pedestrian died after being hit early this morning, while a cyclist died later. The car later crashed into a house where a man was arrested. The shop workers union Usdaw says it supports Tesco's decision to offer staff body-worn cameras. The supermarket said the move was because physical assaults against its employees had increased by a third in a year. Chris Brooke Carter from the wellbeing charity The Retail Trust said shop assistants had become an unacceptable target.
None of us want to go to work and have our safety threatened. All of us have a right to turn up to work and not be abused, shouted at, spat at. And it's having a big impact on people. That we've had people calling our helpline who are telling us that they no longer want to go into work. It's affecting their home lives.
Organisers of an appeal to track down one of Sir Paul McCartney's bass guitars after it went missing more than 50 years ago say hundreds of people have got in touch. Sir Paul paid £31 for it in Hamburg in 1961, but it went missing 6 years later. Football, Arsenal came from behind at home to beat Manchester United in the Premier League. They clinched victory with 2 goals deep into added time, the first from the Gunners' £105 million summer signing, Declan Rice.
What a moment to score. So many people told me that I'd score today. It's weird, like staff members and players had a funny feeling, and I was getting myself into good positions, but to finish that one off and get the 3 points, I think you can see the relief. We're still recovering now. But in the end, I think we thoroughly deserved it.
There were also wins for Crystal Palace and Liverpool. And Rishi Sunak's joined the King and Queen for a church service near Balmoral. It's a September tradition for sitting Prime Ministers to stay with the royal family in Aberdeenshire. You're up to date. It's 3 minutes past 10.
How do we are here? You are there with Allan Beswick.
Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
Good evening, I'm Allan Beswick. This is the Allan Beswick Late Night Phone-In, and I am here until 1 o'clock in the morning. I hope you'll spend some of that time with me. Otherwise, it's going to be lonely. Actually, it's not. I'm sat in a room on my own anyway. I'm lonely. I'm alone. That's enough. The telephone number, if you wish to take part in the programme, which is the only way that you can take part, is 0800 218 2255. The team tonight, we've got Talat in charge, we've got Ollie taking the calls and Kieran making the buttons work and me doing the yakking. So that's all fairly straightforward. The subject matter, well, that's fine. You decide that. I have no influence, nor do the team. You just ring up and say, I want to talk about this, and that's it. Bob's your uncle, as they say. He's not. I haven't got an Uncle Bob, but that's what they say, so what can you do? Just use the language as it falls in your mouth. What else? Oh, yes. I've mentioned we're here till 1, haven't I? Yes, that's all right. I suppose best look at the papers then. Yeah. Well, you just heard that Tesco say that their staff who choose to, it's not going to be compulsory, going to be wearing body cams because they're so frequently abused and or assaulted by customers. And you do wonder, don't you? I mean, what sort of a world is it when people in shops are getting assaulted? It's just ridiculous. The best we can say about the whole thing is thank God they don't let us have guns. We've known for years that eating heavily processed food is not good. Now it seems it's actually bad. I think we knew. The Daily Mail illustrated their article on the matter with a photograph of a sandwich. Right? Warning. Be careful of this. You don't want to eat this stuff. It's bad for you. This is the stuff that's bad for you. It's going to do you harm. And the sandwich had white bread. Bad. Fair enough. Processed ham. Bad. Fair enough. But then it also had lettuce and tomato, which, as far as I'm aware, is all right. So it did the sandwich, the picture, if you like, rather spoilt the article. And then a van got stuck on the beach at Portmadoc in Wales when the tide came in. I don't know about, should have gone to Specsavers, perhaps they should have just gone to Southport. They would be perfectly safe there. And an Afghan Special Forces veteran who fought alongside the UK forces but still can't get permission to come here has been killed by the Taliban. Who in their right mind would help our forces now? Nobody, one presumes. And according to the Mail, every one of our nuclear submarines is stuck in port, waiting for repairs, which is a bit of a beggar, because half of our other ships are as well. Let's just hope Putin doesn't read the Mail. And the RSPB have had an interesting week. They're in the doghouse. They give the government the bird, calling the Prime Minister and 2 ministers, actually called them liars in a public statement. They later withdrew it, but said that they were still very cross at the aforementioned ministers. I should imagine that many members of the RSPB will now be chucking in their cards. How will that loss of revenue help the birds? There is something weird about charity. Some charities these days, they've got all activist. Instead of just saying, give us some money, we'll look after these for you, they now say, yo, over there! Don't they? That's just crazy. Who wants that when they give their donation? And Yori Geller's in the news. Yeah, we do like it when he pops up, don't we? He reckons that Mohammed Al-Fayed's death is a sign from his son, Dodi, and Diana, Princess of Wales. And I suppose in a way it is. And the message in the sign is pay no attention to publicity crackpot spoonbenders. Meanwhile, animal campaigners reckon that money from the sale of Diana's sheep jumper, which is going to fetch loads and loads of cash, should go towards protecting sheep. Why do they need protecting sheep? I mean, they're pretty damn good already, aren't they? Well, they taste it. And Ken Bruce, yeah, him, I know, I'd forgotten him as well, but Ken Bruce now claims that he left the Beeb because he didn't want to play Radio 2's edgy playlist. Oh, yeah, they played something this year, but not from this year, obviously. Well, I mean, it's fair. We don't want to play the tunes and sling it in. That's fair enough. I'm leaving broadcasting because after 40-plus years, those edgy youngsters who've been kept away by Cudgel Sunfire are actually too bloody good to compete with. So God save us all from the young ones. Me and Ken Bruce. Oh, well, never mind. We're going to play some music there, but it seems not bothering. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say, talk about anything you wish. I don't mind. Turns out you don't either. So, 0800 218 2255. Got something to say? Good, because I've got someone who wants to hear it. It's called The People Listening to This. So, 0800 218 2255. Dead easy. Or at least it seems it. So, there we go. An insurance company has got to pay £1 million to an employee because a top executive said to her, and listen to this, with breasts like yours, I'd be demanding 2. Well, what sort of a thing is that for a boss to say to an employee? Ridiculous. Well done, the tribunal. There's still so much and far too much sexism in our society. I suspect the bloke was just trying to get a job in Spanish football. Yeah, what the hell. It's been happening time after time, as Cyndi Lauper might, and I do say might, 1255, want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say, talk about anything you feel like talking about. There's an awful lot of stuff out there that's gone wonky. How do Shafik? How do Shafik? How do Sean?
Evening, Alan. How you doing?
Quite well, despite everything. Go on, what do you want to talk about, Sean?
What do you mean despite everything? What's happened today?
Nothing at all. Go on.
I like the music that you're playing, by the way.
Right, good.
What kind of music is it?
Well, you tell me, you like it. I don't know, it's just tunes to me.
You just press play and it happens.
Well, I don't. For somebody.
Who does?
Well, at the moment...
Can I talk about...
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I talk about migraines? Why people get them?
If you wish.
So,
yeah.
people normally get migraines because they sit in front of the TV all day and then they get headaches, and then if they don't drink enough water, then they start looking at the TV and they start going dizzy, and like they might the room might turn sideways. They might suddenly like feel shaky and cold or something. And
but if migraines are caused by people watching the telly all day, how come people had migraines before there was telly?
I don't know.
No, well, it clearly can't be telly that's causing it, can it? Given that migraines existed before telly.
But what makes migraines happen?
I have no idea. You said you were going to tell me, but the theory you've come up with seems a little, unreliable.
One of my carers had a migraine, and he put his hoodie over his face. He always gets them.
Right. Well, I mean, that's his way of dealing with it. Fair enough. Anyway, Sean, we've been searching for years for what causes migraines. I'm not sure the scientists have found out yet, but maybe these days it is the telly. But good to talk to you. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us? You can. Let's give Cindy Lauper a go. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us? Good. How do Alistair?
Hi there. Hi, Alan.
I'm awfully well.
I'm talking about youth clubs, for the youth. What do you think? Should there be more funding?
It's hard to ever say no to the question, should there be more funding? Everything needs more funding.
Yeah.
Even when there were youth clubs up and down every street, people were still saying it needed more funding. What do you think the benefits of youth clubs are?
Well, really, they'll get to know how to respond to other people, older people, or whatever.
Well, if they're in a youth club, they'll be just with other youths, won't they? That won't involve older people.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, but they usually hang around street corners doing bad things. But some of them are good people.
Most kids, hanging around street corners is the old days, but even as a concept, most youngsters are decent human beings. Occasionally, there are some bad uns, without a doubt.
Yeah, I know.
But whether youth clubs would mean that the kids that aren't decent would become decent as a result of the youth club, it's hard to know, isn't it?
It's hard to know, yeah. But I'll just say, I know a few people with youngsters, and they just say they're good people. Yeah.
I would hope that they are, and most are.
Most are, yeah. I'm pretty good, yeah. I'm indoors now, talking to you, Alan, about youth clubs and youth today. But I agree with you that some of them, or most of them, are good people.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Good to talk to you. Cheers, Alistair. How do Shafik?
I'm okay, my dear Alon. Bible is a religion book. Any human being attack Bible, that time through Jesus Christ come in this earth with witness. He protect his religion book Bible. And religion book, many other religion book in this earth, Quran is religion book. Muhammad protect his Quran. Quran says Jesus Christ will become back in this earth. Only one devil, Shaitan, is a Salman Rushdie say no messenger in this earth. He's a Dajjal. Thank you.
Good Lord. How do Michelle?
Oh dear. Hi, Alan.
Hi.
You were just listening to Cyndi Lauper. Her album's good, of Detour. That's a good album to listen to.
Okay.
The other thing is, pardon?
I said okay, thank you.
When is your last day at work on the radio?
Don't know.
You don't know yet?
No.
Oh, okay then. And do you have any ideas of best places to visit in North Wales?
It depends what you want, really. It's hard to say, isn't it? If I say to you, go and climb Snowdon, you say I've only got one leg, then I've wasted my breath, haven't I, really? Although there are people with one leg if they've got up there, but there are so many different things.
Well, I'm going to be trying to walk Snowdon, the easy track anyway.
Well, bear in mind it takes a long time.
Yeah, someone said 6 hours, is that so?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it always depends how fast you go. I went up there recently and there were a squad of soldiers doing it for fun, and they were running it. And I thought, good God, 50 years ago that would have been me. And I realised how stupid they were. But yeah, I mean, there's all that stuff. That is one of the sort of central spots that people go to, but there's loads of stuff. There's a place called Criccieth. There's Llandudno, of course. There's all sorts of places. Conwy is beautiful. If you like, villages or towny places, there's a nice castle. I mean, you can just go on and on. Like
We're
most
thinking
other...
about getting a cottage. And staying down there for 10 days and having a look around in
Well, that's a good plan.
and stuff like that.
Barmouth?
Yeah.
Barmouth's all right.
I was thinking about going there. Is it Gwyneth? Something like that. Something about that. All the words are a bit difficult to say when you're not used to saying them. Just a rough sayings. But yeah, we thought we might go to Wales instead of Devon next year.
Well,
and have a wander around there.
Good. It's all good for the British economy, so that's good.
I just hope it doesn't rain too much.
Well, you've no guarantee of that in Wales or Cornwall. Well, in Cornwall either. I've gone to Cornwall and stood there in storms enjoying myself.
Yeah, well, my other half maybe wants to know where the pubs are from the cottage. Oh, great. So, he'll be enjoying himself.
Well, I'm sure there'll be some very nice pubs. I've never been there. Just trying to think if I've ever been in a pub in Wales.
I'm not keen on pubs myself, so...
Don't think I have.
Being teetotal, but it's something he likes.
Sorry?
I'm not keen on pubs myself because I'm teetotal, but he likes them, so...
Well, let him go.
He'll be going there, won't he?
I have no idea, but yeah, that's what he wants.
Yep.
If he'd rather sit drinking...
The music, my friend.
If he'd rather sit there drinking poison with strangers than sit with his partner, then he needs to have a look at his judgment processes, doesn't he?
He certainly does, I agree. Totally.
Have a good night, and if you do come to Wales, enjoy it. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. There's something, I don't often say this, but there's something I'd like you to think about. I mean, if you want to come on and talk about it, that would be good as well, but it's quite a long proposition, if you like. The NHS's let them die peacefully policy. I think you know what I mean by that. The one where they say we can't cure them, they're there's nothing for them, so let's stop giving treatment and let them die a peaceful death. And there's lots of merit in it, and there are people who criticise it, and when it comes down to your relative, you may well take an entirely different diametric view to somebody else. But that is a policy that exists, and it's in the news again. But this time, it's a slightly different tale. Let me tell you, a 19-year-old woman who's awake and can communicate, but requires frequent dialysis, is fed through a tube, and has to have help with her breathing. She's suffering from an illness that has only one outcome, her death. We're not talking a cancer here, we're talking about something that is very, very rare, and to date, no one, as far as we're aware, has recovered from it. They die. They waste away. And without the dialysis, and without the ventilator, and without the feeding through a tube, she would die. Rather sooner than with those things in place. But even with those things in place, she will still deteriorate and die. But that's the story. Now, the hospital, the medicals, if you like, the medicos, they want to end dialysis. Now, if they do that, it means that the woman will die rather sooner than if she had it. But she's going to die anyway. Now, that's what the hospital wants. She, remember, she can express herself, she and her family want to continue treatment. One of the reasons given is that the woman, the woman, call her what you will, she's 19 years old, she wants to be well enough to go to Canada, because in Canada there's an experimental treatment available to people there. Now, she's not been accepted by the people in Canada. I don't think she's even been in touch with the people in Canada, but that's what she'd like. And the woman, which is a fair thing to say, she says, I would rather die trying to live than just to accept that I'm going to die. And I can see that. Fighting for her life. If this experimental treatment abroad could help her, you can see what the thought process is. The hospital responds by saying she's in denial. She's not good. It's not going to happen. So the family took the case to what's called judicial review, when a judge sits there and makes a decision about what should happen. And the judge has decided that he or she, I don't know which judge it was, he or she, is not really able to make that decision. It's too big a decision for one person to make. So it's going to have to go to court. And my question is this. What do you think should happen? Unless this experimental treatment in Canada is all it's cracked up to be, she will die. Even if she goes there, she'll still die. She's going to die. We all are, you know what I mean, but she's going to be killed by this condition. She's going to waste away until she is dead. Now, does the hospital say, well, all we're doing is delaying her death, let us allow the body to make its decision, remove dialysis and let it take its turn? What do you say? What do you think? You don't need to talk about it, but I would love you to think about it, because medical science has taken us so far that we no longer have the medical ethics sufficiently clear for every case. It's really, really difficult. How do the parents say, well, that's all right, love, yes, there is this thing in Canada, we don't know whether it'll work, so just die. The parents can't say that. The hospital, there's not much point us helping you to do something that won't work. So you need to have a dignified death. Those are the choices. Almost impossible. Somebody's got to make it. What would you say? What do you think the NHS should do? Or at least think about it. Because hopefully not, but one day you might be the person in the bed. You might be one of the people stood round the bed wondering. That's cheered everyone up, hasn't it? 0800 218 2255. You want to talk about that? You want to talk about something else? Great. I'm more than happy to talk with you. How do Pearl?
Oh, good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
Good evening. I was just wondering, what do you think about our country? What's happening to it? For a start off, you're going shopping, you're walking along the pavement, you can't step out because you're going to get knocked down by an electric scooter or a push bike. What's happened to the bells? You don't ring a bell anymore, you don't know they're there. You get on a bus, they're all smoking e-cigarettes. There's no authority to tell them to stop. You just have to look at them as if to say, now stop doing that. You get on a tram, half the people on the tram, especially the young ones, they're not paying. The tram's full. I'm a senior citizen. It's ages before anyone will get up. You pass a row of youngsters, they just look at you. What is going on in this country? Where's the authority, Alan? What's happening?
Oh, that's a long list. Yes, all of those.
Just pick one.
All of those things, I can see why they would cause someone to think again about our country. You have to go to a lot of other countries before you'll find one that is better than this. You might not even do that.
I agree with you.
So,
I do agree with that.
But there are problems. There's no doubt about that. E-scooters, I think it's France that have just banned all the rent. You know, you can rent them when you're in a city centre. You can rent one. France have just said we're not having that anymore. They're too much of a mess. They're too much trouble. They're too dangerous. We're getting rid of them, and they've got rid of them.
Well done, France.
Well, indeed, people can still buy them, you know, and use their own. But what they can't do, what they won't do, is have them provided by local authorities trying to kill pensioners, or whatever the process is. But of course, you also have to say, stepping out into the road without looking, I'm not going to say you deserve what you get, but, you know.
No, I don't mean that. You know, when you're walking along a pavement, Ian,
then it's really,
Alan, you've got to walk in a straight line or look round to make sure there's not a bike or a scooter behind you.
It is quite difficult, that, and yes, young people don't necessarily have the manners that you and I were perhaps taught when we were at school and even in our home. But they said all these kind of things that you and I might say, look what they're doing, were said by our parents when we were youngsters. Saying they've got no respect, they've let their hair grow. Dear God, I can remember people being told, boys being told in school, go home, you look like a girl, we're not having you in the school with hair like that. So
that's true.
There's always been this sort of old bull, young bull thing going on. The youngsters, they're just not as good as they should be.
I understand that, I know where,
And people vaping on the buses, as far as I'm aware, it's not banned, and even if it is,
it's not banned on the buses.
Smoking is, but vaping's rather different, isn't it?
Yeah, because
Go on, you tell me.
I just thought, like, when you I go to the Trafford Centre a lot, it says no smoking, including e-cigarettes. I thought that applied to buses, trams.
That's the Trafford Centre. They make their own rules. I mean, smoking they don't. Smoking's banned in buildings, so that's sorted. But yes, some areas say no, you can't use vapes in here either. Same in a couple of theatres I go to, they say no smoking, no vaping. We don't have any of that e-cigarette stuff going on, which is fine. All we need to do now is get them to stop people rattling about in a box of Maltesers, and we've got it cracked. But it's always been that way. Whether the country's going to the dogs or not, I'm not quite sure, but it's been going to the dogs for 1,000 years.
It just seems lately it's all come at once. I know what you're saying about when we were at school, and you know, but it didn't kill anyone, did it? You know, now we've got to the stage now where the actions of the people today are killing people. How many people have been knocked down by these electric scooters?
I don't think as many as you're fearing, but certainly yes, they have been. And bicycles have killed people. But then, you know, it's just. The world is a different place, and it is less societorial, as it were. People are more isolated than they were. I mean, I get sick of walking along. I'm a stubborn git. I walk along, and if somebody's walking toward me on my pathway, as it were, and they're looking at the mobile phone, I keep walking, and if I bump into them, they drop the phone. I think, if you don't want to look, why should I take responsibility for making you safe? So I just keep walking. And if we collide with each other, they drop the phone, there's £1,000 of the damage, I just think, maybe you won't again.
Wow, well, that's very brave, Alan, to do that.
Well, I'm an ugly git. What are they going to do? They kill me? How many years have we got left? What am I losing?
Yeah,
but it is. I mean, you know, and it's not just kids. You know, it's grown-ups, all sorts of ages, sitting there, walking along, reading a mobile phone, and you just think, get a bloody life. Get a life,
stuck
you
in their
cretin.
hands, haven't they?
Oh,
Everywhere
it's
you go,
ludicrous.
they're just stuck in their hands.
But it used to be, used to sit on a train. I never enjoyed it. You sit on a train, people will start a conversation with you now. They don't. You just hear one side of a conversation for some clown over the other side of the carriage shouting, I'm on the phone! I'm here till about 2! Yes, I'm very late! And you just want to, you know, say, excuse me, die! Or at least be quiet. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not as bad as it feels, but it's, you know, it's not like it was when you were young. And I'm sure if your mum and dad were around, they'd be saying exactly the same about us when we were young.
Does that mean we're getting old, Alan? Then
I'm afraid I'm not getting old. I've done it. I'm old.
All right, then we'll
have a good night, Pert. It's all right. How do, Margaret?
Oh, hello, Alan. Funny enough, my mum used to say that very little changed from when she was young to when I was young.
Yeah? In what
Yeah,
way?
she used to say that. Every way. But perhaps we were just a backward family. I don't know.
Maybe your parents were a forward family and you just caught up.
Yeah, perhaps, but she used to say that. And I totally agree with you. You are a stubborn git. But anyway, it's nice to agree, isn't it?
Yes. It's going to happen one day, won't it?
That too. Yeah, about that. About that young woman, very sad story. And she's, if I've got it right, she would like to try an experimental treatment in Canada, which hasn't been proved to be effective.
Correct.
Well, do you know, at her age, I think it's worth a try. She's very, very young, and any chance at life, she has to be given that chance, in my opinion. She's 19. She hasn't started life yet.
Indeed.
Any chance she might have at survival has to be allowed for her. It has to be afforded to her. That's just my opinion.
Fair enough. That's a good opinion.
So, yeah, I think they should continue treatment. I think they should pay for her to go to Canada.
Well, they're not going to do that.
But perhaps no, but I think they should at her age. I think it'd be different if she was 119.
Well,
but at 19 years of age.
The problem there is...
Yeah, at least there's 100...
The they you're talking about is the National Health Service, and if the National Health Service starts paying for people to go abroad for experimental treatment, then every penny they spend on that is a penny they don't spend on somebody in this country in the health service. So that's always a tricky one.
Yeah. I'm just saying, at her age, I think everything should be done to help her to get that treatment. Now, if it doesn't work, it was worth a try at her age. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, if it was in this country, it'd be easy for people to say, yes, I agree, but there's no way the NHS are going to fund
that's true.
Going there. And I mean, this one of the downsides of it is the family can't afford it, and any savings they've had, they've spent on court cases, which they'd have to do.
But you know, yes, of course, they've got to do everything for the girl. But there's, I don't know what it's called, I'm not up with the kids these days, but what's it called? I don't know. They go online and they ask people to donate.
Oh, yeah.
And I think at the age of 9, is it called crowdfunding?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, perhaps that's also worth a try, because I think at her age, I think it's likely that they might just get the money to send her over there. And it often happens, you know, that once the patient arrives at the location they need to be, they often do it pro bono, don't they?
I don't know about often. It has been done pro bono, but this is experimental. So the issue with experimental, it's like when they have a new drug treatment, they pick 100 people to be on that drug, and they have to keep it to 100 because it affects the statistical outcome. They have to just say, look, until this experimental period is over, we don't add people to the system. That's often how it goes.
Perhaps that would happen. I still think at her age, any chance she can get, they've got to keep her going. That sounded quite crude to say it that way. I didn't mean to sound that way,
crude.
But it's crude with a D, crude. Crass, I thought that sounded crass from me. But they have to keep her alive. I said they had to keep her going. That sounded awful.
It's fine.
Anyway, it's just my. I think at her age, they've got to do everything they possibly can, And if she can express her own opinion about her life, she wants to stay alive, to try this experimental treatment. It has to be afforded to her.
Okay.
It has to be allowed.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Bye-bye.
If anyone else wants to comment, If anyone else wants to comment on it, you're more than welcome. I think I have a view, but I'm not going to fight you over whatever view yours is. I'm just interested what you think should happen. And Margaret pointed up there one of the differences, and I think it's an important difference, is when people are in this position, and we hear of it from time to time, don't we? Probably twice a year, a family taking the medical profession element, or the hospital, if you like, to court for treatment to be continued to their child or their loved one of some sort. And the thing that's different is the loved one in most of the cases, in fact, the only ones I've ever heard of, are unable to speak for themselves. But this young lass can. I don't think she speaks. She's got a tube in her mouth, but she's able to communicate and says, this is what I want. Now, the medicos say she's just, deluding herself because she doesn't want to die, and why wouldn't she? But the delusion can't be taken into consideration, is the medical profession's apparent view. She's deluded. We have to make decisions on the reality of the situation. It's a thought. 0800 218 2255. How do, Peter?
I couldn't agree more with what you were saying earlier about kids today with mobile phones in their hands all the time. We weren't just even allowed to use the ornery phone.
No, we weren't. But who wanted to? You had to sit on the bottom of the stairs.
In fact, when I think I told you this the other day, when I used to ring you on Red Rose Radio, my parents were in bed, I used to creep down the stairs and be very quiet and try not to make a noise, because they'd go, you phoning Preston? Have you any idea how much that cost?
Yeah. Do you remember those little boxes that people used to keep by their phone? Somebody was in their house and could I use your phone? And there's a little box where you had to put a shilling in or something.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And we had party lines in those days. Do you remember those?
I remember that.
You could hear the other person up the road going click.
Yeah, I've never lived in a house that had one, but I'm aware of them. Yeah.
Well, my dad had a phone because he used to work for the electricity board, and he had to do. He had to be on standby, so he needed a phone. So the phone was actually, I think, supplied by Norweb originally, or I think it was called the Northwestern Electricity Board then. SHMD before that. Still by Mosley and Duckyfield. I think it was part of the bus depot. That's why it was there, but interesting. Anyway, what I'm on tonight, Alan, is we're in the month of September.
It's true.
But it's the 9th month, and sept means 7. And I was thinking the other day, well, why is September 7? Why is October the 10th month? Why is Nov the 11th month? And why is Dec the 12th month? So originally, were there 10 months, I thought. And I think there were, weren't there?
I've no idea, but even if there were 10, they'd still start from 1.
Yes, but...
So September would still be 9, whether it started at 1...
No, I think there were actually 10 months in the year at one time, which is why...
But then you'd have September
was the 7th month until...
Oh, right,
Julius
so it was two before of it, was it, that was missing? 2 before September?
I think... the Julian calendar started in, I think, I'm just reading it now, 45 BC. So was that when, I think July is named after Julius Caesar and August is named after Augustus Caesar. So that's why there are 2 extra months, and that shuffled the other lot up 2. So that's why September's the 9th month and so on. That makes sense, doesn't it? So there were 10 months before Julius Caesar controlled the calendar, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to say about that, other than he might be right.
But when was Jesus born? Was he born in Nil, or was he born in BC? Because it's saying here, King Herod died in somewhere between 4 and 6 BC. But that was before Christ. So was Jesus born before Christ?
Well, it's just a point at which they decided to start stuff.
Yeah.
And they refer to before Christ. They don't actually call it that now, scientists and archaeologists and all that lot. I think they call it the age of entitlement. No, not entitlement.
What does that mean?
Not entitlement, enlightenment, I think.
Oh, enlightenment. Oh, that makes more sense, yes.
Yes, indeed, entitlement. It's not quite right. Although I suppose he's entitled to anything he wants.
Like going forward.
But there's always been this problem, haven't there? There was the birth of Christ, and then there is AD, is it? Anno Domini, after the death of Christ. Yeah. And we start counting at his death, not his birth.
And he's supposedly about 33 or something, wasn't he, when he died?
That is what the New Testament tells us.
So is year 0 when he died then?
Yes.
Right. So what happened between BC and AD then?
Well, he was around then, so I suppose I didn't need it.
But according to this, he was born around 4 to 6 BC. Because King Herod died in 4 to 6 BC, and he was alive when Jesus was born, wasn't he? As far as I remember in the Bible.
That's what that's what the New Testament says.
I wasn't there, so I couldn't really tell you. But the other thing is, they would know, would they not, roughly when Jesus was born, if he was born, because it would have been around the shortest day, and we celebrate Christmas around the shortest day, don't we?
Well,
but other religions think he was born in...
You've kind of spoiled your own question, haven't you?
Yeah.
In that you've said if he was born. So the belief that he was born is in many people's religions. In some people's religion, the Messiah has never been born, and Jesus is said to be the Messiah. Other non-Christian religions, as you were, the Islamic religions, they acknowledge,
prophet, don't they?
They acknowledge that there's a prophet around at the time, and I suspect.
But he's not the Son of God to Muslims, is he?
As far as I'm aware, no. But there isn't a God, so God hasn't got a son anyway.
Well, and did people just produce sons out of thin air anyway?
It's all just stuff made up. The whole lot of it. The Bible's made up. It's just a very long, actually quite an intriguing novel. The Quran, it's made up. There isn't a God.
The Quran is quite similar to the Bible if you read it, isn't there? The 10 Commandments are there, and they're all pretty similar.
There are similar elements, yes, but they're all made up.
But when we swapped from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, we lost about 9 or 10 days in the 1500s. I think it was 1582. It says here.
Well, we didn't lose any days.
Well, yeah, it went from October the 4th to October the...
We don't lose any days. The days are still there. We just called them something different.
Yeah, exactly. But what if you got a birthday in between? You lost your birthday.
Well, I don't suppose they had much of a party then. I mean, icing hadn't been invented unless it was on the top of a mountain.
But they can predict things like eclipses going forward in time. Presumably they can go backwards and find out what was going on around the time Jesus was born. So was there a star, or was it just like end planets all being together at the same time, which
there are various theories. There are various theories as to what the entity was, if there was a Jesus, if he was being born in a stable, and if there were 3 magi somehow managing to gather together and go wandering across the desert looking for this baby, at the same time as there's a load of other fellas going around with swords looking for him to kill him. So, it's a great novel. Don't knock it.
Yes. But if someone is born today, they're born on a specific day, and they die on a specific day. So why do we celebrate Easter at different dates every year? It's weird,
because
isn't it?
Well, Easter
it relates to the moon or something, doesn't it?
Well, you answered the question. You didn't need to have asked it. You now know. So that was a
But
waste
it
of
just
breath.
seems. Why does it relate to the moon? Why doesn't
I've
it
no
relate
idea.
to the day he died?
I don't know.
If he-
I don't.
No.
I didn't make this stuff up. Somebody
No,
did,
you didn't,
and
Alan.
everybody thought, "Oh, what a great idea! Okay, that sounds fun. We'll do that."
But there's
talking about
quite a
things that
few
don't
flaws in
actually
it all,
matter.
this book, isn't there?
There's flaws in everything. You reckon you're perfect? You're wrong. It's
No,
me.
I do not. Good God, no.
Oh, good. Well, I do. I am. Have a good night.
No.
I'll do Emily.
Hello?
Hello.
About the young lady that wants to have the experimental treatment.
Yes.
So, I think she should be allowed, if she's signifying in some way. You said that you thought that she couldn't speak, but she's able to communicate what she wants in some type of way.
Yes, she is able to
What, writing?
express it. I don't know is the answer, but that is an easy presumption. But certainly,
Okay. So she's able to give her opinion in some way.
yes.
So why not? I mean, I think she should make. Obviously it's experimental. It mightn't work, but she's got nothing to lose anyway, because she's going to die anyway, even if it doesn't work. Then again, if it does work, or it makes her a bit better, and then they say, well, if we carry on with this, we think you might have we might give you another 15 years to live. And then other people who might have whatever condition she has can then get something from this. But I think for the hospital to just say, she's, what word did they say, deluded?
Yes, she believes they don't accept the option that she wishes to take as a simple one, as an accurate one, a sensible one. They think it is a delusion that she is enduring.
Well, I agree with you. There's no way the NHS is going to pay for her to go to Canada and pay for the treatment. But if they could, if her family could do like some sort of crowd fund, and whatever it was, they met that target for, the travel to Canada on whatever the cost of the treatment. Why would the hospital? Why would they be bothered about her being deluded? It's not going to cost them anything, is it?
Well, the job
if
of
she
the
goes to Canada.
The job of the medical people is to do what they think is best for the patient. Now, often that's fairly straightforward. The leg is broken. Should we leave it? Should we treat it? We'll treat it because that's best for the patient. That's easy. But when you get into complicated situations such as this one, where the woman is deteriorating day by day, the hospital has to make a judgment about what is best for her. And because first of all, this treatment has not been made available to this woman, she's just aware that it supposedly exists, and so someone would have to do some research to find out the value of it, because it's not published treatment. So the medical profession, or those people in the medical profession there, are saying it would be not in the patient's best interest to keep her alive so that she can then transfer to Canada for a treatment for which there is no evidence that it works.
I mean, is there anything that we know what the Canadian Medical Association?
Well,
you're saying that this treatment has not been offered to her. They somehow, her or her family just heard about it.
That's exactly the case. The family have heard about it.
It's not in any peer-to-peer review medical journal or anything.
No, it hasn't yet been approved by anybody. It is.
Okay. So it's even more complex. Then.
Well, yes, because she would be going on a journey which will not be easy for her in her
because
condition.
if she's on whatever she's on, the dialysis, etc., she couldn't go on a regular commercial flight, could she? Because she's going to have to have...
Likely, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a special plane, so all the medical equipment, whatever she's hooked up to, that goes with her. Which, of course, that's going to add a few bob onto the cost, isn't it?
It's going to be very, very expensive for somebody, but let us presume...
At the end, because it hasn't been peer-to-peer reviewed, at the end she might die anyway, and then that's all that money spent.
Well, her words...
as Margaret said, you can't begrudge the young lady wanting to do it. 19 years old. Do you know what I'm saying? Very, very difficult. I mean, my instinct is to say, if they can raise the money, let her go. Try it. She's got nothing to lose, as I said before. If it doesn't work, well, they're saying she's going to die anyway, There have been other cases, I think you mentioned, it's all been children, though, hasn't it? And they've been very, very small children and sometimes babies. And the parents want to do this.
It's not always been young children. There's a famous case of a football fan who was in a coma for a very, very long time. And there were court cases...
Was this Hillsborough?
I think it was, yes. And there were cases going back and and he wasn't a baby in arms, as it were, but he was not...
Could he give his own opinion, though?
No, he couldn't. Very definitely not. No.
But there have been cases of young children, like babies, or up to the age of 2, and their parents have gone to court because there was one, and there was some treatment that was available in America, and I think the child was about 1.5 years or something, and the parents wanted to take the child to America for this, and a judge basically said no and ruled with what the doctors in Britain said. And against the parents' wishes, even though they wanted to try it out in America with their young child, the child was allowed to die. It's a horrible, horrible situation.
It is. And I say again...
incredibly distressing to the family, and in this case, to the young lady.
A girl as well, yes. I mean, she's being told, look, we are considering removing dialysis, and that will bring about your death more quickly than if we were continuing the dialysis. And the reasoning behind that, and it's almost impossible to make the case to somebody like me, a layperson, and you as well. It's almost impossible to make the case that the best thing for this person is that they die.
Yes. Well, it's your natural instinct, as a human being, is
I have heard people say,
she's got nothing to lose, let her go to Canada.
Yeah, that is the natural, but you see...
Why do you think they're not doing that then, the hospital?
Because they believe, they believe that would not be in her best interest. And they know all the medical facts, and we only know the few that I've issued out, and they've all come from newspapers. But in the end, the medical profession have to make a decision, and the decision they've made is that it is a futile attempt to travel to Canada. She's going to die a not particularly comfortable death in a foreign land for no point.
I mean, my gut feeling in this says that I think there's a high certainty that she's not going to be allowed to go to Canada. I think there's a very high certainty that, didn't you say some judge wouldn't get involved or something?
Well, it wasn't he wouldn't get involved. I don't know if it was a he or a she, but the judge's decision was that this is not a case that ought to be decided by a judge in a judicial review, which if you imagine a judicial review as a snapshot of the case, and if it's fairly obvious that something's gone wrong, the judge will say what has to happen now. But in a very, very complicated case, that's no place for judicial review. That's the starting point, and the judge says, no, this really must go to full court, because every letter, and by that I mean every syllable of every argument, needs to be gone over with a fine-tooth comb. We want people here giving evidence. We want information about what could or couldn't happen in Canada and all of that. So it's a much more complicated process, a longer hearing.
So this then, it's now going to go to a full court. We think,
not necessarily. The judicial review judge has said, I can't decide this. This cannot be decided in this place. It has to go to court. And it's now up to the...
If she and her family then say they want it to go to a full court, then I would assume, therefore, the treatment in the hospital that she's, already having would then continue, and then it will go to the full court, and then that judge will make a decision.
On questioning, when such a case as this happens, the medical profession continue with, it's not the right phrase, but continue with the status quo. So we will continue, say the medicos, to give all the treatments that we are giving presently until a court tells us otherwise. Until a court decides.
I didn't know that this could then now go to a full court situation. I mean, my gut instinct is that unless a judge in a court, after analysing the entire situation, and that judge says, well, they've raised the money or what have you to go to Canada and flight and what have you, she should be allowed to give it a go. Because like I said there, she's got nothing to lose. So the judge says that. She's got nothing to lose. I think she should be allowed to do this. The judge doesn't say that. I think her family and her, unfortunately, and how sort of excruciating it's going to be for them all, I think then they would have to accept that there's no route for her to go to Canada.
Indeed. Emily, thank you very much indeed. 0800 218 2255. You can talk about anything. It is a free phone in. By that I mean an open phone. It's actually free as well. An open phone in. You talk about anything you want. I'm just obsessed and intrigued by this latest challenge to the NHS let them die peacefully policy. How do Jessica?
Hello, love. I would have thought if the illness was that rare, the drug manufacturers would be eager to get hold of it to try it on. Because, they must be short of candidates.
Well, that's maybe, that's maybe something that if it does go to the courts, then that is something that will be discussed, not in the same flowery language that you've just addressed it, but yes, what is going on? Would she be going there? I don't know the answer to this. I'm just broadening your question, if you like.
Making a cure if you don't know what the disease is.
Indeed. They can diagnose the disease. The disease is diagnosed. It's got about 35 letters in it and lots of hyphens and stuff. The disease has been diagnosed. What they don't have is a cure or indeed a treatment to keep her alive. All they know is we can keep the body working, but it will continue to deteriorate. And yes, if it goes to court, because the family will have to fund that somehow, but if it goes to court, then the court will make a judgment that includes consideration of the value of this experimental treatment in Canada, which may only work anyway. And there will be this issue. Someone will say, well, is she just becoming a guinea pig? And her naivety and desperate, along with many of us, including me, the desperate desire to stay alive is injuring the wisdom she needs to make the judgment. I don't know, but that's the kind of issue that the court would end up addressing, I suspect.
Yeah, well, that bit about measurement of AD, BC,
It's now referred to as Common Era.
That's it, the Common Era. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and getting back to what the woman you're talking about with the mobile phones, which is why I originally rang up. Some years ago, I was walking down the street, happily minding my own business, which is unusual for me, and a very smartly dressed woman was coming towards me, and as she reached me, she said, "Oh, hello, I was just thinking I haven't seen you for ages, how are you doing?" And I couldn't recognise her, but my eyesight, that's not unusual, and I said, "Oh, I'm not doing so bad, thank you. It's, yada, yada, yada." She said, "Hang on a minute, there's a strange woman talking to me." And she was actually on her phone with one of those hands-free things round her neck.
Oh, dear God. They do look stupid. I mean, first of all, they look... It's like I see people out jogging along the promenade, and they've got earphones on. And I think, do you not realise how stupid you look? But they're jogging, so good on them. I couldn't jog.
And as for the e-bikes, whizzing past you from behind, with a bit of practice, you could do a quick sidestep and knock the buggers off. Accidentally.
Not to be recommended, Jessica. Thank you very much.
Well,
have a good night. 0800 218 2255. How do, Malcolm?
How do, yeah. Just discussing this business about the alleged effort to remove you as a nighttime talk show host. I don't understand. I see it as arrogant, and I'll tell you why I see it as arrogant. Because a couple of years ago, there was a consultation on this idea of reducing the local radio, and the BBC asked for that consultation, and they found that a lot of people didn't want it. They wanted local content at night so they could talk to local people through a talk show host such as yourself. Now, having gone through that consultation and claim that they are a public service broadcaster and therefore their purpose is to serve the public, not themselves, the management of the BBC, I don't understand why they would then arrogantly, only a couple of years later, decide to implement exactly the same policy as they originally intended, as you know. And I would call upon them to reconsider that arrogant decision, because arrogance leads to consequences. For example, support for the BBC is not as strong as it once was. I know that because obviously I'm a member of the public. And to annoy those members of the public who like local radio would reduce support for the BBC. And you don't need that. The BBC, I'm talking to the management here as well as yourself, if they happen to hear what I've said. You don't need that. You want people to support the BBC. And I don't understand, as I say, I don't understand why the decision was taken. But let me hypothesise that one possible reason is that it's come from the top. Because, as you know, we've had a change of regime, because now we've got, what's he called, Spreadsheet Sunak, or, not Speeding Ticket Sunak, that's another name for him, isn't it? Because he did get that speeding ticket. And he will have his media people in charge now, as opposed to Boris, who, we had that toppling of the head of the BBC because he'd given a loan to Boris. So Speeding Ticket Sunak, as we're calling him, will have decided that he wants his men in charge. And maybe what he's worried about is he's worried about people like myself, because he knows he's not really able to connect with a lot of people across the north. He's lived a very privileged life, and he's worried, because he's worried that people like myself will point to weaknesses within the Sunak regime. And maybe that's why they've taken this decision, which demonstrates his weakness, because it shows he's frightened of the voice of ordinary people, and he just wants the London-based elite to pump out his propaganda and not to be countered by others who might think differently to himself. That's how I'm interpreting it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, there's no maybe about it. pointedly and blatantly are. I love the idea that you accuse the BBC of arrogance and then think that the Prime Minister is actually considering a fig about what you think. How do, Des?
Hello, good evening to you, Alan. Hope you're well.
Good evening. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Little discussion about this unfortunate, maybe not the right word to use, this young woman with this very rare condition. Nobody seems to have mentioned about the fact that it's the NHS that have said that they're considering taking away dialysis, which will ultimately shorten her life. I don't think it's right. I'm not sure that's the right word to use. Should the NHS be allowed to withdraw her dialysis to shorten her death? I'm sure that young lady is able to communicate in whichever way she can.
Well, it is part of the responsibility for the medical profession to do what is best for the patient. Now, it's very hard, for me at least, and I suspect you, but it's very hard to decide that what is best for the patient is she should die more quickly than she will do anyway. But then I'm not a medical professional. I can't make those decisions. I can't grasp the specific, but the concept I can. I can understand that continuing treatment isn't always what's best for the patient, even if it's what the patient declares they want.
Okay, I can understand what you're saying there, but I also thought the NHS doctors and people in that profession, I suppose it is, took a particular type of oath to preserve life for as long.
Well, first of all, no, they don't. Doctors don't, and as far as I'm aware, never have signed the oath that is that you're referring to, that is called the Hippocratic Oath. It's never been something that doctors signed, but it doesn't matter whether they signed an oath or not. You are correct, and it is their job to do the right thing for the patient, which might not necessarily be to save their life.
It just seems a contradiction in an argument, doesn't it? You know.
No, well, I can see the apparent contradiction, but no, sometimes keeping a person alive merely means keeping them in agony.
Well, we haven't heard anything. I haven't heard you say anything to say that she's in any particular pain.
No, and I can't because I don't know. But
yeah, and I don't know. But what I do know is that the pain management side of bad diseases, cancer, etc., in the final stages is very well manageable. And as long as this young woman is able to communicate and still talk to her family.
Well, what they are proposing, the NHS, let's call them that, what they are proposing is they put her onto the system of managing her death rather than continuing to keep her alive. And the first stage of managing her death, and the NHS does managing a death thousands of times a week, so it's just another one. But this one, the process first of all would be, as I understand it from reading newspaper articles, would be to stop dialysis.
So by stopping her dialysis, as you say, managing her process, that's shortening her life. So maybe if they carried on her dialysis for another week, she'd have another week to be able to communicate with her family. Every day, every second of life is very precious, and I'm sure you can appreciate that.
Well, I can, except I've heard people asking, please kill me.
In that situation, yes, but from what I've heard, she's not in that situation.
Indeed, but when a patient who's had enough says to the medical profession, please kill me, the medical profession... No. I was giving you an example. When a person says that to the medical profession, their answer is no. We will not kill you. Now, on this occasion, she wants to stay alive. Most people would, But she's not going to. She's going to die. That is for sure. She's going to die. The disease will kill her. And it won't be a pretty death. So keeping her alive with machinery is, according to the medical profession, not in her best interest, even though it goes against yours and my logic. It's hard to make sense of. It doesn't mean it's wrong.
Okay, it doesn't mean it's wrong. But she should be able to make that decision when it does get to, I hope it doesn't, when it does get to the stage where she does possibly say, I don't want to live anymore. Well, let her get to that stage to make her decision, not someone saying, listen, we're not giving you any dialysis anymore because it's going to be bad. Let her make that decision, right?
Okay. Right. I asked for everyone's opinion. That's yours, Des. Thank you very much for sharing it. Good on you. 0800 218 2255. How do Heather?
Oh, good evening. Hi.
Good evening.
Yes. Hi. I quite agree with what you're saying, because a person that can't actually speak for themselves, I'm presuming she's on a tube, etc., etc. But my point is really, okay, the family would like to raise a lot of money, obviously, to take her to Canada. But the problem is, in my opinion, if she doesn't make it over in Canada, then the big expense is coming back to England to sort of put a burial, say, or whatever. So there's going to be a lot of money involved. So I agree with everybody trying to raise money to get the girl. I'm sorry, I don't know her name. But I think if the people here have said there's no chance, why all the expense of getting, like you said, a private plane, which it will have to be with all the medical staff, and then if it goes wrong over in Canada, then the problem is the big expense of getting her back home. Obviously, she's here in England. And I hate to say it, and I hope they're not listening, but I think they should let it be over here. And, yeah, the medical staff here know what they're talking about. I don't think they should be thinking about flying right to Canada, because you've heard of other people going to America for treatment and that didn't happen. And it's such a lot of trauma, and, you know, they can't fly all the family over to Canada to be with her. So there's all the people left back here in England. So anyway, that's just my little opinion, and I hope the family aren't listening and think I'm being hard, but I think they should just let it be.
Okay. All right, Heather, thank you very much indeed. 0800 218 2255. How do Ivan?
Oh, good afternoon, or good evening, I should say. Hello, I know. I think I better go back home and see what I'm doing. No, I just want to bring something up that nobody has mentioned over the last few days, and that's the climate. In all the countries now, you either get burnt to death or you get drowned. There are all these things that's going off, even in Florida last week, when all the bad weather came along. They've never had such a bad time with it. I mean, it's not only this country, it's not only all these countries abroad. I've been going like through Greece. I had a friend in Italy that was going to Greece, and I just said to her before she went, I said, just don't get burnt to death, will you? And she just laughed. She laughed it off. But she was lucky. She got there and got back all right. But there again, you see, this has been warning us since 1976. when we had a heat wave. I don't know if anybody were around at this time, but we had a really bad time in 1976, and they said it's warming. It's the world is warming up now, and we need to do something about it. And the governments have never done anything about it really. And that don't mean our own government, but all the governments in the world. And they keep having these, G2, the G2s, and talking about things and never seem to get on with it and sort it out. And it's coming to real now that this, all the countries are vulnerable to all this bad weather. And I just want your opinion about it, please, Alan, and give me an idea what you think about it.
I have trouble with it in a variety of ways. People keep saying it's the worst rainfall we've had for 80 years. All right.
Yes.
Why was it so wet 80 years ago? What caused it then? The difference between climate and weather is quite difficult. There are lots of people who deny global warming, and then there are others who say, yes, the planet is warming, but it's not mankind that's causing it. The Indian government, or the Indian space lot, have just launched a spacecraft towards the sun, and part of its job is to find out about these sunbursts. And these sunbursts do and can have an effect on Britain and on the rest of the world. So in essence, I don't really know. I accept what the scientists say, that our world is getting warmer. But you have to wonder, what is there that we can do? Certainly in the United Kingdom, where we're told that we cause 1% of global warming. So if we did away with everything that causes global warming in our society, the effect worldwide would be 1%. So we've got to convince others to do things, and because it's not crucial to us, because it's only 1%, we're not doing as much as we should. But then we have to go to others and say, you should ought to do this. And they say things like, well, you're talking about opening a coal mine. You just extended the licenses for gas search. So it's difficult. What you're saying to people is, we want you to be poorer. We want you to stop using motor cars. We want you to stop eating a lot of meat. We want you to go back to the days when, you lived hand to mouth and, had a much healthier diet, but not the one you've got today. It's really difficult.
Alan, what we're going to say is that I live in Leeds, but I go to the East Coast mostly, like Scarborough, and I've noticed that all down the Scarborough coast and going right down to the south of England, the coasties have been eroded all the time. Now we had a scientist from Sweden. Now I was listening to him talking on Sky News, I think it was, about a week ago, and he was saying that because the ice is melting in the Antarctic and the Arctic more than it is in the Antarctic, that the sea has risen another 3 inches. So obviously the sea's getting higher, and those on flat land, like such as Holland, who on a flat land, they're liable to be underwater by in another 10 years or so. So are their governments going to build a wall to stop the water coming high over the wall?
You pick a bad example with Holland, because great chunks of Holland were under the sea, and the government has created a process whereby they're rescued from the sea. And yet if the sea comes and takes them back, well, that's just being back where we were. I mean, it's all about little bits. That's the problem. If the scientists could say, right, if you don't sort this out, in 5 years' time we'll all be dead. And if they said that and people believed it, something would get done. But it's all about you having to do this for your great-grandchildren. Well, nobody gives a monkey's cuss about the great-grandchildren until they're born. And then 5 years later, they're not great-grandchildren anymore because the great-granddad's dead.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's too far away to get cohesive action. You know, if somebody's invading you, take Ukraine as an example. If someone's invading you, then it's very easy to marshal people into doing something really extraordinary to stop it.
Yeah.
But if all we're saying is it's going to get a little bit warmer, and, you know, there's going to be a few more storms in America and here, there and everywhere, and we might have wet summers, people are going to say, well, that's all right. I can live with that. And whether they should or not.
Well, all these fires that have been going on in Canada, I mean, you've got to think about all these things that's going on, and like I say, in Greece. And it's been travelling. I mean, Germany got actually drowned in Germany with water. So each country.
Well, I read in the paper today that Las Vegas is flooded. Las Vegas is in the middle of a bloody desert, but it's flooded.
It is, yeah.
I mean, there are all sorts of things. You know, it's just. You know, in the 70s, scientists were telling us we're heading towards a new ice age. What the bloody happened to that?
No, we don't know, do we? We don't know.
I'm not saying the scientists are wrong. I'm not a denier. I just wonder what it's going to take to get mankind to say, yes, we must do something. But the trouble is, what we're asking them to do, it's not dramatic enough. And it's drama like a war that gets a reaction. Saying, I say, if you don't sort yourselves out, your great-grandchildren are going to have a terrible time. And they think, that's sad, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'll just buy another diesel. Good on you, Ivan. We've all got to care a bit. Cheers, mate. 0800 218 2255. And, you know, there are people worrying about the weather, and then they send the kids to school, and for the past 20 years, they may well have been at risk of the roof caving in. And I don't really care about the weather that much. Spend less on green stuff and get our bloody schools safe. How do, Andrew?
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
About this girl going to Canada.
Well, she's not doing, but I know what you mean, yes.
Yeah. Canadians should pay for it.
Who should?
Canadians.
Why?
If they reckon they can fix it, they want to
don't.
try.
No. Well, they don't. I mean, what I don't think we've said enough is that this young woman thinks that this experimental treatment in Canada will save her. And first of all, they've never approached the people in Canada. It's not that the Canadians are saying, oh, yeah, send her over here, we'll sort her out. The Canadians have not even been spoken to. This is just the young woman's desire to try anything to stay alive, like her words apparently were, I'd rather die trying to live than live waiting to die, which is a great expression. But
whoever told you about the experimental thing in Canada should have kept the gob shut then.
Well, that was probably her parents or even the girl herself. It's very easy to research things. You find out what your condition is, you type it into the internet, and the next thing you know, you're reading about an article of a trial going on somewhere on another part of the world. We know about it.
Right. I thought the Canadians had said
No. The Canadians, at this stage, the Canadians are not even involved in this. They probably don't even know it goes on. But we've seen cases.
Right.
We've seen cases over the years where, you know, people have raised ludicrous amounts of money to send somebody abroad for a new Canada treatment, and they get the treatment and they come back and everybody welcomes them home, and then they bury them a year later.
One more thing.
Go on.
How do guide dogs work? Say you got your guide dog, and fair enough, you want to cross the road, it'll tug and let you know when it's safe. If you want to go to the post office, well, say it don't take you to bookies.
Well, the dog doesn't tell you where to go. It's not like a taxi. You don't get on the back, you know, and get hold of its frame and say, like, take me to the library.
They know where to take you.
You tell it. You go. You have to know the route. So you have to be able to get from your house to the library. The dog just protects you from the incidental dangers on the way to the library. The dog doesn't know where the library is. It doesn't know it's going to the library.
Right.
So the driver still makes the decision about whether we're going left or right, unless the driver says go left and the dog says no, there's a bloody big lorry coming. So it's not. The dog doesn't have a sat nav. If only it did. Little sat nav on its head, you know. Good on you.
Another thing.
Go on.
You know, when cars go past you with music playing out with windows open.
Oh yeah.
Do they not realise that we can actually hear that they're listening to crap?
Well, the trouble is they don't realise that you think they're listening to crap because they think you're lucky to be able to hear the wonderful music they're listening to.
Generally, it's not.
No, it's all...
Anyway, thank you, Alan.
Have a good night, mate.
Yeah.
0800 218 2255. If you like listening to crap, I've got another hour and a half of it. How do, Trevor?
I'm pleased to be able to contribute.
To bring my wisdom.
Right. I've got a couple of Sherlock Holmes stories for you to start this evening, Alan. Dr. Watson arrives in Baker Street to find Sherlock Holmes painting the door with bright yellow gloss paint.
Oh, no, come on.
What is it, he asks?
A lemon entry.
There you go. You're finishing my jokes for me. Jokes
only because I first was told it when I was about 9.
Oh, right. Okay.
Go on. I won't interfere with the last one. Go on.
Sherlock Holmes at a crime scene examining a bed. This bed is missing something, Watson, he says. No sheet, Sherlock, says Watson.
Thank you.
Yeah, off we go. In the natural world, of course, it's been a great week for boobies. Not just one, but 2 boobies spotted on the Scilly Isles, a red-footed booby and a brown booby. So that's a bit of excitement for the world of ornithology, isn't it, really?
It is.
And do you ever go foraging, Alan? You know, sort of picking wild plants, herbs and mushrooms to put in an omelette or something?
No.
Well, you're probably all right then, but for people who do, a cautionary tale, albeit from Australia, which you may have seen, an 8-centimetre long worm, a live worm, pulled from the brain of a patient suffering from forgetfulness, and apparently they think the worm had hatched from an egg on a foraged plant that he'd eaten. So,
and how did the egg get on the plant?
Well, do you have a theory?
I have an answer. I don't have to faff about with theories. I have an answer.
Go on.
The plant had snake crap on it.
Oh, goodness.
And what happens with these animals is a snake goes along and eats... Well, they just swallow them whole, don't they, greedy buggers? But they swallow the creature alone, and the creature has within it this worm's eggs, as it were.
Yes.
And then the eggs are excreted by the snake, and they cling like beggarly onto the grass. And this woman was eating grass. And God knows what happens if you eat grass. Does you eat her to milk? Probably not. But she was eating some special kind of grass that they have as a salad in Australia because they're weird.
Right.
But it's Australia, you know, even the bloody grass can kill you.
Well, thank you for that additional information, which is news to me. So thank you for that.
That's all right.
I've got brief comments, if I may, on 2 more serious stories, Alan. You mentioned the business with the particular kind of concrete that's causing all sorts of chaos, really. And I heard that the Chancellor says the government will pay, quote, whatever it takes to make schools safe. And immediately after the Chancellor making that announcement, the Treasury said that doesn't mean there's any new money. And it seems to me that the consequence of that is there are either going to be significant cuts to other parts of the education budget, or it could take years, if not decades, to finally deal with the problem. And indeed, what about all the other buildings? I think there's some progress with hospitals, but apparently there are courts and offices and all kinds of other buildings affected by this.
I love the story. There was a story in the paper today that one particular hospital that has something dodgy about its first floor ceiling and first floor and ground floor ceiling, they can't treat patients over 25 stone upstairs. And I thought, how they bloody only got them up there anyway? God almighty, but they are 25 stone, over 25 stone, you've got to be treated down here. Where? In the fat wall. Where do you think we've got the jumbo one? You see the one over there with the bloody great wide doors? Read them in there and then lock them and shove some lettuce under the door. We'll soon get them thin enough to be in the ceiling. Bloody hellfire.
Right. And finally, as they say, the government is planning legislation to force those convicted of the most serious offences to hear impact statements and be present for sentencing. And indeed, such plans are supported certainly by the immediate opposition, the Labour Party. On the one hand, I entirely understand why families of victims want the people who've wronged them and their relatives very badly to be present and to be sentenced in front of them and to hear about the impact. But I just wonder, and I'd welcome your views about this, about the practicalities of it. So one of the parts of this, as I understand it, is that they could get 2 years extra on their sentence if they refuse to come into court to attend impact and sentencing hearings. And my thought about that is, if they're facing a whole of life term or a very, very long sentence, is the fact that they might get an extra 2 years on top of it going to change their minds if they've made that decision. And the other bit of it is that they're going to be able, the security staff are going to be able to use reasonable force to bring them into court and keep them there. And I presume that's possible. But if they, as serious criminals have in the past, start shouting abuse at the judge or the families, what are they going to do? Are they going to take them down again? I just worry about the practicalities. I understand the thought behind it from the victims families, but I worry about the practicalities, and I wondered if you had any thoughts.
I'll separate it into two. The first one is, I read an article the other day by an esteemed lawyer who said all the powers that the government are talking about already exist, except for the 2 years or whatever it might turn out to be. A judge can already order that the accused be brought into court with reasonable force if necessary. So that is already in existence, and judges have chosen not to do it. And they tend to know what they're doing. They spend a lot of time in court, and they know how prisoners and the accused can react. The other bit is rather more contentious, and I have a bit of trouble with it, because it's all comparatively recent. We used to have the situation where the crime was committed, somebody was found for it, accused of it, charged, the evidence was presented to the prosecution service, and it went to court if they thought it was a good enough case. From that moment on, the accused was what mattered. It was about getting that person, getting the right decision for that person's trial, guilty or innocent. And it wasn't the job of the judicial system to make the in the case of a murder, make the survivors feel better. It wasn't about that. It was about society. Justice is done for society. It is not done for the victims. The victims are members of society, but it's not done for the individual. And we've changed our system now so that the victims, often not victims directly because the person's been murdered and they're their relatives, but those who are affected are allowed to go into court and say how they've been affected.
Yeah.
But the judge is not allowed to bring that into his or her sentencing.
No.
So it's actually a publicity stunt. It's a pat on the head for the victim. And, I mean, I'm a fairly tortoise-like person, quite a hard shell around me at the best of times, but I don't see the merit. I don't see, why do you feel better? How can any of those parents of the children murdered by that disgusting Letby woman, how can you make them feel better? There's nothing you can do to make them feel better. You can con them by saying, come along and tell us how you feel. And I just think, I can't get away from this idea in my head that it's a patronising publicity stunt to make it look like the courts are being harder on criminals, which is what the society seems to want. We want them locked up for longer. We want this. Well, we can't do that because we've got enough people in prison. So let's get the victims in and pat them on the head and they'll feel a bit better, or at least they think they will. And then we've got away with it.
I've not heard that argument before, but I understand exactly what you're saying. I suppose the only thing I could say to counter that is it appears that victims' families do feel, in some way that I don't understand, but do feel that being able to read out that impact statement in some way they feel, I don't know, has a positive impact for them, being able to say it out loud. I don't know.
Yeah, and you may be right. As I say, I'm a soulless individual, so...
Not absolutely entirely, Alan.
Well, I'm rather disappointed if that's the case, but never mind.
Thanks for the conversation anyway.
It's a pleasure. 0800 218 2255. I mean, what do you think about impact statements of the victims of crime, or indeed the relatives of the victims of crime? I have severe reservations about them. But, you know, I'm just one bloke with a gob. What do you think about it? How do David?
Hello, Alan.
Hello, David.
Just want to let people know, and you know, when I was born 69 years ago, I was born in the house, because we didn't have safe units and hospitals that you could stay in. So when I was born, I had two surgeons around my bed, which was the bathroom floor, and they said, this lad's gonna live, he will live. If he doesn't, there's nothing else we can do. And I'm glad to say, are you still there, Alan?
I am, yes.
Yeah, I'm glad to be able to say, at 69 years of age, with a long stay in Alderhay Children's Hospital, after 5 days with my mother, I had to go into Alderhay. I was put in there and had many, many operations for 10 solid years. And I'm glad to report from everybody to everyone, thanks to the National Health Service and thanks to places like Canada, I really rang because of this lady at 19. As Margaret said earlier, this lady is 19 years of age, and we owe that lady something. As a country, we owe it. I got the chance, many other people got the chance, and I think we are getting too lethargic and laid back. We're letting people go, and that is the sign of the new times. And I'm like you, Alan, something has changed in this world, and it's not for the better. Not for the better. We need to go backwards again, not forwards. Because in your generation and mine and many others, we have manners. and our parents taught us, and that's where we were going, right? But I just wanted people to know this, because I could have been dead after my birth, and I wasn't. 2 surgeons admitted me on the floor in our flat and said there was nothing for me. When our GP doctor come in, who is now dead, God rest him, he let me mother see me with no clothes on, and she said, yeah, he's my baby like the other 5, he's the 6th. And after 5 days, I was taken into all the hay. I'm repeating myself, I know, but I want people to know that where there's life, there are possibilities. Where there's life. And I know her treatment was nothing like mine. I know it's the kidneys or whatever it is, it's not the same as mine. But where there's life, there's hope. And I mean that out of the bottom of my heart.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. 0800 218 2255. How do Anne?
Hello, Alan. Can I say something to you? You're such a lovely, lovely gentleman, and it's a pleasure to talk to you. I hope we keep you for a long, long time. I think you're absolutely lovely.
Okay.
And not only that, you're very nice with people on the phone. But sometimes the law in this land is rubbish. I know we should look after people, but they're not looking after the English, they're looking after all the people coming over on boats and putting them up for free, and they can't even look after the English people, and when they've got no houses to go into. Somebody's doing about that.
Apparently the Prime Minister's going to stop the boats. We shall see. Thank you very much, Anne. How do David?
Good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
A couple of facts about Australia. I was listening to the caller before about eating the worm sort of thing. Now, Australia's got the world's largest saltwater crocodiles and freshwater, surrounded by sharks, and some of the most dangerous snakes and spiders in the world. Which animal, and I'll say the animal because it's not a human, would you suggest? Well, humans do actually, but other than humans, which kills more people, which animal kills more people than any other, would you imagine?
The mosquito.
No, Australia, I said.
Oh, sorry, I don't know. I'm not specific about Australia, I don't know.
It's actually the same in many first world countries. It's the horse. On average, the horse kills, it kills on average 9 people a year in Australia. And it's the same in Britain, the horse kills more people other than humans, killing other people. Yeah, and it's the same in many countries. America's the same, so's Canada. It's the horse. I won't babble,
I know nothing about Canada or Australia in those terms, but to say it happens more often in Britain, horses kill more people than humans, does that take away...
I didn't say that. I said humans kill more.
Oh, right.
Other humans. I say it's the next. Which animal, we don't class ourselves as an animal, so which creature kills more people in first world countries than any other? It's generally the horse.
Right.
And Australia has also got the world's largest population of wild camels than any other country. They're not even native.
No, they were taken there as a beast of burden across the great deserts of Australia, which are huge.
Yeah, there are many. I didn't actually know why they were taken there, but yeah, it's obvious now you said it. But just sort of enlighten you on a little bit of information, that's all.
Australia's a deadly country, absolutely deadly. Everything
kills you. It's a what, sorry?
It's a deadly country, everything kills you.
Oh yeah, if you run away from it and jump in water, there's a bloody shark waiting to eat you.
Exactly.
If it's not shark, it's a sea snake. So it's surrounded by killer animals, no matter where you go.
Absolutely. Have a good night, David. How do Edward?
I've been in many fields with many horses, Alan, and they've never killed me.
No,
Still here.
yeah, well, they're still keeping their eye on you.
Yeah, I fed them a few carrots and a few bit of grass, and they seem okay. Quite content. They're big things, but they're very timid. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm ringing about. Do you watch a programme called Koonsberg on Sunday, or Sunday with Koonsberg at all?
No, I don't. I suppose I ought to, really, the politics and all that.
Holiday for you, isn't it, if it's on a Sunday?
Yeah.
But this morning they had Jeremy Hunt on. I think he's the Chancellor, is he now?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, and he was talking about this business with the schools and the materials and
the concrete,
and the concrete. And I think, I don't know about you, but what a weird timing to close schools as a result of this one day into the new term, because apparently they've known about this for years, haven't they?
Certainly known about it for a long time. I mean, they knew it wasn't ideal. Whether they knew it had reached a critical stage, it's impossible to say. I don't know.
She grilled him quite a bit about this, and he said, well, new information came to light very recently, but he wouldn't go into a lot of detail as to what that information was. But, we've been building buildings out of concrete for years. I can't believe.
Well, yeah, but
the
concrete, this particular concrete was introduced in the 50s. So, and it had many benefits, not the least of which was it was light, so you could use it in ceilings more easily without the same kind of support that you would need for a concrete roof. So it had lots.
Is it mainly in the ceilings where the problem is?
As I understand it, yes.
I'm a bit of a civil engineer, more of a water engineer than a structural engineer, but it's interesting that, because we use concrete when I built spillways in various different locations throughout the north of England, and that concrete, it's lasted years.
It lasts
very
forever.
Well,
we are told, although I've yet to find any evidence, we're told that the Romans invented concrete and then we forgot how to make it, so we had to wait for somebody else to come up with it.
They would have had steel reinforcement, though, would they?
They wouldn't have had steel reinforcements, no. But the concrete that's been used here is much lighter, and therefore, I presume, if you're going to use it, they keep referring to concrete planks, and I can imagine these 10, 15 foot long.
Then, are they?
Well, it would seem so, yes, and they put them in the roof as a flat roof. And
so are there a series of them, one next to each other, then, or are they?
I would presume so. I would presume so. And then,
right, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah,
but they, you would think you put concrete in place, it stays there till you shift it. That's the truth of concrete. But this isn't the case with this, apparently. It deteriorates, and when it was being sold, it was sold with a fixed term life. This will last, they say, you put concrete in, it'll last you 200 years. You put this in, it'll last you, 40, 50 years. I can't remember the figure, but it had a life on it.
Is it deteriorating long before the 40, 50 years are up then, or is it actually done what it said on the tin?
Well, I think it's deteriorating now because it's been there longer than the time it was given.
Well, then it's back to the 7 Ps then, isn't it?
It's back to
proper
the what?
Preparation and planning.
Oh, the 7 Ps, yes. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot cheaper. And remember, they had to put schools up quickly. They were throwing schools up in the 50s and 60s and throwing up all sorts of things. And when we looked at them, I can remember...
Sorry.
No, go on, please.
I was going to say, when we were at school, I don't know if you remember, but apart from main school, they used to have these prefab buildings on the school fields.
Yeah.
A little bit of the fields. But of course, those fields have gone now. And in fact, my school's gone. It's been completely demolished, and it's a housing estate. But before it went, they put a police station on the tennis court, and they started building on the top field as well. So, there's less and less space. And, the school playground, where you used to play football and rugby, they're all disappearing like there's no tomorrow.
They've gone. I mean, they still have a little play. Well, there was a head teacher the other day on the news talking about having to put porter cabins, teaching, specially designed teaching porter cabins on the school playground. And that meant that the kids, when they go out to get some fresh air, there's nowhere to go out to get it.
I know. And I was listening to Any Answers yesterday, and some woman was going on about, why don't you build a yurt? And I was thinking, who the heck wants to teach in a yurt in the middle of winter with a howling gale? It's not going to last 5 minutes, is it?
Well, they're actually talking about marquees.
Yeah, Marky, well, the same thing,
I know, and you think, what?
One gust of wind, and that'll be out over, over the North Sea.
You get really substantial ones, and hopefully that's what they're on about, but who wants to be taught in a tent?
I mean, she was talking about there's exemplary teachers. I thought there's no exemplary teachers going to want to teach 30 kids in a marquee, is there?
Well, no, but they want to. I mean, the driving force behind teachers is quite extraordinary. I think they will teach wherever it is required that they teach.
Well, my niece is a teacher, and an exemplary one at that, I reckon, but I'm a tad biased, but...
I find that hard to believe, but go on. But yeah, I mean, they're motivated people, and if somebody said, look, the building's dangerous, will you teach in that tent? I think most teachers would say, yes, of course I will. I want the kids to get an education.
Why wouldn't you start this work at the beginning of the school holidays, where you've got at least 6 weeks to get the thing built, to announce this one day into term?
Well, I think you saw the answer to that from the mouth of Jeremy Hunt, who said to Koonsberg, according to you, we got some information very, very recently, which meant we had to act quickly. That's the answer.
Could you tell me what that information is and go into some detail, please, Jeremy?
Well, maybe the papers will get wind of it, or maybe the BBC will get wind of it, maybe we'll find out. Or maybe they just found out you've left it too late and they're falling down.
Yeah, which wouldn't be the first time for a politician, would it now?
But if you imagine if they said, look, we better examine all these ceilings. So we'll employ that firm over there. Now, we want a report off you. Don't send them one at a time. Wait till you've done them all and then send it. Now, that takes weeks because they do them one at a time. So they've got number 1, number 2, and now we're on number 55, the last one, and bloody hell, 40 of them are about to fall down. We better tell them. But that's taken 6 weeks. So you've just got the information. Now, had you been told about the first one, then you could have started on that. You wouldn't have finished it by the end of the holidays anyway. But
pretty serious. You think they might give them a clue, wouldn't you, and say, hang on a minute, I think you better start doing something here. But yeah, as you say, if it's a collective one, they've been honest, then yeah, so.
But we'll find out. Eventually, we'll find out whether the information was last minute or whether that was his instant answer that they'd rehearsed the night before.
It's a bit hard on the kids after they've been through COVID, though, isn't
it? But not as hard as having a roof fall on your head.
That's absolutely true.
So there's always a bright side, and it's up to me to find it.
Yeah, you'll have to play that record. And can you also play Fatal Hesitation? Because he used to like that by Chris de Burgh. And someone was going on about Southport Pier the other day, weren't they? Do you remember?
I do.
Yeah, and it's falling to bits. That's why it's going to cost over, is it 13 million quid to put it right? And they haven't got the money, have they?
It's going to cost a lot. And I know some concrete that's going cheap they might want to use. Edward, good to hear from you. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. There's going to be an awful lot of rubble available soon, isn't there? I'll do Jackie.
Oh, hi. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello?
What would you like to say? Hello, Jackie. What would you like to say?
But just thinking about this idea of bringing an extra 2-year sentence to people who will refuse to attend court, maybe it's not such a good idea. I mean, Lefty's got a whole life sentence anyway, so how are you going to add 2 years to her sentence? Plus, if you're that callous and you can do that sort of thing, you could sit there and say, well, look, I don't really care about how your family feel. I don't care about what you think. And it could be a really negative experience, to be honest.
Well, it could. I can just imagine the situation of someone who is forced to sit there when they could, in the past, have chosen not to. They might just sit there smiling, looking at the family whose child they killed and smiling. I'm having a lovely day.
Yeah.
I'm not in my cell. I'm out here. I got people looking at me. I feel good. A happy smile. And I'm glad I killed your kid. What's that going to do for him?
Well, exactly. That's my feelings, exactly. And that's really all I wanted to say. It would be a very negative experience. I mean, if you've done something so horrible, you're not going to mind saying, well, I don't really care about how you feel.
You see, if they put it the other way round, if they said, you come into court and behave respectfully to the family and we'll knock 2 years off your sentence. What do you think? But then the people will say, well, they're only doing it to get 2 years off their sentence. So,
well, exactly.
There's no way forward,
and
is
as
there?
I say, Lefty's been given a whole life sentence anyway.
Exactly. She ain't going nowhere.
2 years is it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's immaterial to her, yeah.
Yeah, she's got to live 2 years after her death in order to get the 2 years to work, and you can't do that. Not making sense, is it?
No,
Jackie,
it's not.
Good to hear from you. Have a good night. We're going to talk to Tony very shortly, and to you indeed, if you want to join us on 0800 218 2255. And we're going to miss the record I was going to play because of the name of the band involved, but we'll play Mr. and Broken Wing. Mr. What time is it? Mr. We got a penny for the guy. That was ours. 0800 218 2255. And it's a band called Mr. And the song was called Broken Wings, but you probably worked that out from the lyric. I'll do Tony.
Good morning, Alan.
Good morning.
Yeah, I was just... you're probably not the person to ask about this, but as you like ice cream, well, I've been trying to make my own ice cream over the last 2 weeks. I'm just running out of one of those vanilla tubs you get from the supermarket. And so I did a vanilla one and a strawberry one and the coffee one. And the flavours are very good because I used clotted cream, natural ingredients, vanilla essence and everything. But as I was just saying to one of your researchers in Manchester, the only one I've found any good is the coffee ice cream, and that's for making coffee. It makes a fantastic coffee. But as an ice cream, it's useless. It's crystals, ice crystals in it. The water crystals.
Well, it's inevitable because of the water.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to work out is how do you make it like you get in a supermarket or something, you know?
Well, to make ice cream, you can make it by other means, but the only means that really works is to freeze it and mix it at the same time.
So you don't mix it first, you freeze it a bit or something?
No, you have a gadget, often referred to as an ice cream maker. You have a gadget so you make the liquid, the mixture, whatever the liquid is. Yeah. Now, if you make the liquid with coffee and you make coffee first, so you're adding a cup of coffee rather than coffee flavouring, then it will have a lot more water in it than is normally the case with ice cream, and that might be the crystals that you say, have formed in it. So the reason it's called ice cream is because it's a cream-based commodity, and what you do is you chill it, indeed you freeze it, whilst at the same time mixing it, stirring it if you like, rather than mixing. So you make all the ingredients, mix it together, put it in an ice cream maker. You can just put it in a tub and put it in the freezer and then take it out every so often and stir it and mix it and then put it back in. But that's not the perfect way, because that will still quite possibly give you ice crystals.
Oh, but it's worth a go.
It's worth a go, but if you're going to make coffee ice cream, I would make it with coffee flavour, either a commercial coffee flavour, or indeed get your beans, if you're using coffee beans, and grind them up and try that. But it will be bitty because they won't break down. So what is the best way with coffee is to use a coffee flavour.
Right then. I think I just did a black coffee, black strong coffee, and added it in.
Well, that would of course change the structure of the cream, if you like, the liquid. It would be more water in it, and the more water in it, the more likely it is to get crystallised. The other thing that will crystallise ice cream is if you make it, or even if you just buy it, and it somehow defreezes, warms up, and you refreeze it, that too will make crystals, because the best way to avoid the crystals is to mix it continuously as it freezes.
Right then. Okay. I'll give that a go.
The ice cream maker is the easiest way to do it.
It's only because I ran out of, or was running out of, the vanilla ice cream tub I had, one of those big ones, and I just thought, well, Anthony, why don't you give it a crack yourself? It can't be. There's only about 5-6 ingredients in the average ice cream. But it's the cooking, or the baking of it, which is the art, I guess. So, but anyway, that's what I've been wasting my time on. And
what most people do when they're making ice cream, it's not my favourite, is just make custard. Custard like you put on your apple pie.
Oh yeah.
And then freeze and stir that.
I don't like custard particularly. After being at convented schools in the 70s and 80s.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
But maybe a bit of custard would probably be okay. I could probably, that's another idea. I've tried a bit of yogurt as well, but I don't think that's really improved matters in the strawberry ice cream, and just getting a strawberry yogurt and thinking, microwave the ice cream, add the yogurt in, and it's still got the ice crystals in it, and I just thought...
well, it's the stirring, as I say. The stirring is what's required to break up those crystals, to stop them forming. All right?
Okay, right then, thanks, Ray. Well, I thought I'd give it a long shot asking you. Some of that advice is very good and worth trying out, because, of course, you like your ice creams. And I just think it might just be easy to buy them in future.
Well, fair enough. Have a good night. How do, John?
Good evening, Alan, and how are you?
Awfully well, thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking, can you do me an ice cream now? And because it's so hot. And
if I had ice cream, I wouldn't be giving it away.
A lollipop's the same way, kind of what you said,
I don't know what you mean.
All right, it don't matter. The thing I'm on, Paul, really, to be honest, is about these parking, where you park, £100 penalty fines. They're like a Mickey Mouse thing threatening you. So, I'm not paying that. But the ones have got off the council where I live in, well, I won't mention the area, and they built a bus station, and you go down this lane, and they cameras on the sat-nav send you down now. I've had 5 penalty points and fines from 30. Then they've gone to 180. So I had a car off Europa Cars, so they wanted me bank details. So all the money went out there, they took it out. So is the bank wrong or whatever with the fines that they've paid these people off, you know? Well, it's personal bank details, isn't it?
Did you give your bank details to the person that's been paid?
Well, what it is, I have a mobility vehicle. And
Okay, well, despite all that, we're talking about the bank now, not what you do with the vehicle.
Yes,
Did you give the person who took the money out of your bank your bank account details?
Yes, because during that, my mobility card was damaged, you see. So they wanted me bank details for a £1 deposit. I said, I'll pay the £1. No, we need your bank details. So my mother, she's passed away and said, oh, I never give my bank details to anyone. During that, I got these penalty points on Eaton Lane, you know, going down there, because I've gone down there years ago now.
Okay, well, let me stop you, because let me stop you. So are you saying you gave them your bank details because they wanted them, because they
deposit.
Because they wanted them to take a £1 deposit? Did you give them permission to listen? Did you give them permission to take any more money other than the £1?
No. The bank paid them and took the fine.
No is an answer, so we can stop after we've got an answer.
Okay, yes.
So you gave them your bank details to take out £1 and nothing more. And the bank...
Correct.
Now, did they take out £1 and then later take out some more money?
Yes.
Right. Then the second event... the problem is you gave them your bank details, and that's never the right answer. If they say we need your bank details, say, well, you're not having them, so that's the end of that. So shut your face, here's a quid.
Yeah, the thing is, Alan, though, I was on mobility, my car got damaged, so that was the thing there. The insurance said, oh, it's kosher, you know what I mean? So then I put that £1 deposit down because I wouldn't have got the car for my mobility reasons. So I don't know where I stand here, whether the bank being them giving the money and they've took the details from my bank. There's some fraud in there, surely.
Well, the first fault is giving somebody your bank details. Because if they haven't got them, they can't take your money. Now, the bank have presumed that because you gave willingly your details to them, that you've given permission to take the money. You're saying that is not the case. So start with your bank and say to your bank, I gave these people my bank details for them to take out £1. They've come back again and taken out more money, but I've not given permission for that.
That's correct.
And see what the bank says. Because the bank has the power, particularly as it's a company, to go back to that company and say, that money shouldn't have been taken. We'll have it back, thank you. But they might say to you, you gave them your details.
Yeah, the reason was, like I said, that car, what I had, it got damaged and they gave me a car on rental, the £1 deposit, bank details. Like you said, you don't give people your bank details. Now, I'd have been inconvenienced under what they said. I still pay a £1. No, it don't work like that.
Well, let me tell you what often happens, and this is where the pitfall might be.
Yes.
Sometimes, when I go to the petrol station and I put in my card to get petrol, because it's one of those self-service ones, it authorises £1. Now, it authorises £1 so that they can then get access into my account.
Right, yes.
And then, when the petrol has been delivered and it comes to 70 quid or 50 quid or whatever it is, they take out the rest.
Right.
So I've even checked into hotels and they've said, can we have your card details? And I say, I've already paid. And they say, yes, but you may use stuff whilst you're here. So give us your card details. We will take £1 out of your account. And then if, when you leave, you've not spent any money, we'll put the £1 back in. And the reason they take the £1 is to make sure that the card I'm giving them is valid. The same with the petrol pump. It's making sure, they don't all do it, it's making sure that the card is valid. And then if it comes back and says, we're not giving you £1, they know the card is dodgy. So that's what might have happened. You might have thought you're just giving them the £1, but by giving them the £1, you might have been saying to them, here's my card, take what you require. And they've then and said, well, we'll just take £1 because that's what we do. So it might be that confusion where the problem is.
Yeah, I think the reason is the £1 deposit they want is, like you say, you don't give bank details, but I had no option with my mobility car being repaired, and they give me a card as a company who kind of paid the bank details.
Okay, well, do you have a credit card?
Yes.
Then you should have said...
At the time, I couldn't find it, so eventually I got upon the bank up and they give me my details with, date of birth and PIN numbers, like, 6 numbers, and give them, and they said, we'll send you a new card. So I accessed my money in the bank, there was nothing left, so I couldn't pay my bills all through that. And all these penalty bus lane things.
Mm-hmm. Well, what might have happened is by giving them your bank details and permission to take the £1, you may well have, without realising, given them permission to take all the money that is owing to them. No.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. And I thought, well,
Indeed.
It's a kind of scam there, to be honest. You don't use your bank details.
It's not a scam. That is how it operates. That is how often these things operate. Because you could give them, they say, give us your bank deals, and you say, okay, 12, 14, 16, and then give them 8 random numbers. 0800 218.
Yeah, that's right.
2, I'm just trying to make it 8, but you could say 0800 218 225, and they say, okay, that's fine. You walk out the shop, and they come to take the money out, and they say, this is a bag of lies, it's not true. So they have to check it.
Yeah, well, the banks have got all them debits on there,
No, we're not talking about the bank, we're talking about the people who want your money. And you gave them your details, they used those details to get the money out of your account. You're saying that you only told them to take £1. Well, there is nothing that they sell that costs £1. And I'm telling you about the practice. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying there is a practice whereby if you're paying somebody by a card, they will take the card, they will make sure the card is valid and take £1 to do that. That proves the card's valid. And then at a later date, take the correct amount.
Yeah, they did. They left me bank short because of that, because they had the money and I couldn't pay my bills.
I appreciate
and I thought I'll get the money.
But the trouble is, the system that they've used on you is not a scam, it's a fairly common practice.
Right.
And you've not quite understood what was going on.
I don't, because my mother's not long passed away.
Okay, but had you had your card with you, you could have said, well, there's my card, take the £1. And they would have had to then give you a thing to put your PIN number in, authorising the £1. And they wouldn't, when I go to the supermarket, I give them my card, and they take £20 for the newspapers I've just bought. They don't go back later and take 500 quid because the card won't let them. But if you've given them so
I'm not used to everything.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm just saying that the trouble is they're not going to give you the money back because they believe you owe it to them for all these fines, penalties. The bank are going to say almost certainly, well, that's the normal practice, Now, you're saying, and this is the important bit, you're saying that they told me they would only take £1, and you presumed that meant that the only thing they will take £1, that would be the lot. But they appear to have taken other monies. Now, the argument comes down to, did you give them permission to take other monies?
I don't know.
Well, if you didn't, what was the £1 for?
Well, the £1 was for the mobility car with mine being damaged.
Well, the mobility car's not just £1.
No, but the one they give me under the Royal Insurance in Liverpool, they said it's kosher. And I phoned them.
No, John, I'm trying to... What was the £1 for? A car doesn't cost £1. There's nothing happens in a car. You get someone to clean your windows, it's at the traffic lights, you want more than £1. There's nothing happens on a motor car that costs £1. So...
Yeah, but it was kind of for the mobility car, the Royal Insurance, £1 deposit, we need your bank details. Not reading the small print, nobody does really, it's so small.
Well, often not reading the small print is one of the most expensive things you can fail to do.
God, you need big glasses to do that. You know, but be honest.
Well, John...
And that's why I'm talking to you, you know, and... Well, you know, what you said, you're quite correct, you're quite...
John, talk to your bank, and if they think you've been frauded, they can get your money back. They can get your money.
They told me that there's a bank fraud. I phoned them, but they keep you on the phone that long. You go through another 1, 2, 3 different places. Transferring at 5 o'clock, they cut you off, and they said you're entitled to compensation on that.
Have they?
Because of the company who had the car with the deposit, and they took all my money out of the bank for the fines.
If the bank say you're entitled to compensation, did they say who from?
Well, they said from the hire company, the mobility one won't give me this car, and I paid that £1 deposit with me bank details, and everybody said, well, you won't have any convenience to get out with being immobile. So that's how it ended up. I ended up stuck then, you know.
What I suggest you do, John, because you clearly have got no progress with the bank, I suggest you go and see your nearest Citizens Advice Bureau, and they will talk to you about the process that you've been engaged in, and if they then think that the company have acted beyond their powers, they will quite possibly get in touch with the company on your behalf and say you were never given permission to take anything more than £1 out of the account.
That's correct. Yes, you're right.
And they will say, and they will say, you were never given permission to take more than £1 out of the account. You need to refund everything you've taken above £1 immediately.
Yeah. And compensation
compensation...
Bill's not paid, because they took the money out, so I went to get my money out, nothing. How far I'm going to pay my gas and electric, you know, when you like that, you know where your money is, and there was nothing left then, they took it all. And I put my mobility badge in the car, and how can you get fined for that? 29 minutes I parked it in the old Sainsbury's, which the company has now, around, and the first fine's £100. And I don't agree with that, because I've checked out, the maximum is £30 everywhere.
Well, no, it's not. That's the first thing. But second of all, if just because you have a mobility card doesn't mean you're entitled to park for free.
All right. Well, I thought you were, you know.
Well, you're not.
All right.
There are many car parks where it says these are the bays for people with a mobility card. We call them disabled bays, which is unfortunate, but these are the disabled bays. But you still have to pay. what the badge does.
Well, that's perhaps why I got them penalties during the pound deposit and took out my bank.
Well,
they was only allowed a pound, like you said, that is the pound.
Well, we've moved on. We've moved on slightly now, John, and we've moved on to the use of your card. The mobility card doesn't automatically give you the right to park for free.
Well, I didn't know that. Now you told me. That's why I'm asking.
Well, it's true.
So I've got to be careful. If I park in a mobility place, you're allowed perhaps stay out there 2 hours or whatever. But if you park in another one, they can impose a penalty of £70.
Well, you need to know the rules of where you're parking. All car parks have a rule, have an explanation, and it will tell you whether people with mobility cards are entitled to park for free or not. It is not the case that you always can. Even when there are what we call disabled bays for the disabled vehicles, disabled people, and you park in that bay, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's free. Most of the time it will be free, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. You have to check.
Right. I've got that now, because that one, £100 straight away. I went to a pub in Woodley, parked on the car park, not knowing, I was only there half an hour going to see a few old friends. Next thing, 3 days later, penalty came through, £100. So there's a camera in there, and you have to put your registration. They never told me. So next thing, I thought, well, the one lady phoned up and they cancelled it.
Right, well, and that happens a lot, I'm sure, but it's the obligation of the driver, whether they're driving a mobility vehicle or not, it's the obligation of the driver to know what the rules are where they park.
Well, I didn't know. I thought if you have a blue badge in a mobility bay, you can park anywhere. You're exempt for that reason.
Not necessarily.
So you're not really, are you?
Well, it depends. Most mobility bays, are you calling them, will allow you to park for free, but not all.
Right, all right. I'll have to read the small print they have on the board right now. I'll get the bus and go into Stockport. It's so easy, and you're not paying parking charges, because the Peel Centre got one from there, because my car begins with Y and O. I kept the receipt, and they sent me a bill saying parked all the time. The mobility badge was in there, and that was kind of void there. And a lot of people had problems, and they're pregnant, and they pay it off. So eventually I got my money back then, off that time. Yeah, after 5 o'clock, you can park free. I thought, well, I'll put £1 in the thing and beware now, because like you said, the mobility badge doesn't always cover you where you're parking. The best thing to yourself, nice to speak to you, but I may get an helicopter cut down and I'll send you an ice cream.
Right.
Hey, Alan, it's my birthday next Saturday, 66.
Right.
And if you put a flake in and send it through, I'll send you a double back, and you can perhaps be an ice cream man now, and the way you say how you can make it out of custard, I'll try that.
Okay, good on you, mate. Have a good night.
Thanks,
I'll do
Al.
Sean.
Good morning, Alan. How you doing?
Morning. Awfully well, thank you.
I want to talk about the George Floyd incident that happened ages ago with that policeman. That when he was on the floor, and then they were forcing him, and he was saying he couldn't breathe, and they didn't care, and someone's forcing him that he died because he couldn't breathe, all because he was black.
Okay. You said you wanted to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, don't you think that was quite racist because he couldn't breathe, and there were two white policemen?
You seem to have stopped talking about it.
Well, it is quite bad because a lot of people say no that white policemen don't like black people, or because of that one incident that happened. And
I think it was possibly said because in America there are quite a lot of cases where a black person is arrested and abused and mistreated by white police officers, and sometimes even black police officers.
Well, the police get away with it because they think they can do what they want.
Well, they don't get away with it very often, which is good.
And he got justice because that policeman lost his job in the force.
That's a kind of justice.
So that's good. That is. So it won't happen again.
Oh, it will. Regrettably.
It will.
Oh God, yes. Have a good night, Sean. I'll do Jessica.
If you join the Ku Klux Klan, did they give you a sheet? Did you have to take your own?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They probably have special ones that you have to pay extra for. Ready hold.
Right. Very, very easy ice cream recipe.
Go on.
Small carton of double cream.
Yeah.
2 ounces icing sugar, or caster sugar.
Caster sugar, yeah, not icing
Yeah.
sugar, dear God, it's just smoke. Go on.
And 2 eggs. And don't say custard because it's not.
Yes, it
Vanilla
is. Go on.
essence.
Vanilla essence.
Right.
So cream, eggs, sugar.
Yeah. Beat your cream and so it doubles in volume. Separate your eggs. Whisk the egg whites to stiff peaks. Mix the sugar, egg yolks and vanilla essence together. Fold the whites into the cream and slowly add the egg mixture. Bung it in a container, freeze it. That's it.
And then get the container out later, stand it in some warm water, and when it's defrosted, throw it in the bin. It's just custard.
It isn't custard.
Cream.
Well, you won't put it on. You won't pour
custard. It's cream and egg. It's
eggs in
custard.
It's just because it's got eggs in it. It isn't custard.
You don't want eggs in ice cream, otherwise you've got iced custard.
Listen, Mush, I'm older than you, so I know
Don't make
better.
you right.
What a bet.
It's a good one, I bet. It's a good attempt, Jessica. I hope somebody
out
tries
there, try it and tell him. Bye-bye, love.
See you, Jessica. 0800 218 2255. I'll do Chris.
Hi, Alan. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. I can.
Hiya. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, well, firstly, first-time caller, and I've been listening to this show since the kind of the end of lockdown, really, and Connor was doing it at the time, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was brilliant, and there's all these characters that come on, and I think it's great, but I think it's a real shame the show's going to be leaving, and it's one of those things where I phoned up tonight and they said, well, why are you calling? I said, well, loneliness. I said, I'm 46, but it's a very lonely world. And but this show, and I'm sure for a lot of people, it fills a big hole. And it's a real shame that it's going to be going. And I said, I kind of joined when Connor was doing it at the end, for the last couple of months of lockdown. And then yourself came on. And you're very different, well, and it's all good. But I just wanted to say how important it's been for people like myself and maybe other people, and that's all I wanted to say, really. To be honest, Alan.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll do Gary. Hello, Gary. Gary's got his goods and gone. Let's play Golden Brown by the Stranglers. It's a really good song. It's the bass what I like. I do like a bass. You see, Paul McCartney's trying to find his old one, or somebody's looking for it, presumably, on his behalf. It's going to cost millions. I mean, unless he finds out who's got it and they got it because they pinched it or whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter, does it? Cost millions. He's got millions. he said with more than a hint of jealousy in his voice. But yes, he's trying to find his bass that he played throughout the early days of the Beatles, and then now wants it back. It was last seen, or its last known whereabouts was a cupboard or some. Yeah, cupboard's a good word, in the Apple building. Gone, I said. Let's have a look at the papers for the morning. Telegraph. Sunak yields on onshore wind farms. The Tory rebellion to see compromise deal thrashed out to avert a Commons defeat. So, we're going to put up wind farms, we're going to put up wind farms, we're going to put up wind farms. No, you're not. Stop the boats. No, I haven't. Wreck the schools. So, you managed that. Sort concrete by December, demand parents. Not a prayer. There aren't enough people in the building trade already. So, what's going to happen? Building companies can't get... I think I read somewhere the other day that the building industry is 30,000 members of staff short. So who's going to mend all these schools? Who's going to take this concrete out and replace it with whatever? Real concrete, perhaps, or even wood. That seems to last a long time. I don't know. Who's going to do it? They haven't got the staff. The building companies just haven't got the staff. Crazy. Shoplifters must face the law, even for sub-£200 crimes. That means less than. So says the Telegraph. Also on the front of the Eye, Hunt vows to make schools safe at any cost, but there's no new money. Hang on a minute. What do you mean, at any cost? No, not at any cost. At the cost of robbing Peter to pay Paul, one presumes. Without wanting to be political, that sounds... If it's not going to cost any more money, then it's not coming at any cost. It's coming at a limited cost, limited by where you can nick it from. I don't know. Politics. It's just strange, isn't it? It's just PR these days. At the Times, hundreds of schools still in the dark over safety fears. If we're not careful, one day soon, we're going to be reading the news about how many children were killed when a roof fell in. Now that is disturbing. If that doesn't concentrate the mind of a government and an education department, then Lord knows what is. And I just mentioned Stop the Boats. Cracking job going on at the moment. Migrant crossings approach 900 a day. Stop the boats. Where all these boats come from? That's on the front of the Times. Crazy. The Daily Mirror front page, my promise to workers. This is Starmer's tax pledge. That's Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party. I won't raise your income tax. I won't hammer you like the Tories. That's meaningless. My plan for the growing economy. You plan all you like. The economy will only grow if people want to buy our stuff. And will they? Will they want to buy it? Really? Will they? As the kids say. Will they? Really? Have to wait and see, won't we? Front of the Sun, England coach grilled me over my sex life with Kirsty. That's a Danny Cipriani exclusive. There's a guy who knows how to get in the paper. Guardian front page, schools crisis, no extra cash for repairs, say the Treasury, so screw you, or at least screw the roof on. Homicide cases failed after evidence was lost. Dear God. Can't get them to come into court to get the sentence. You can't let the evidence into the bloody court. Dear God. The Daily Star, trick or heat. Well, apparently we're going to get 33 degrees somewhere. I can't wait. The Daily Mail, councils allow staff to work from the beach. So not just work from home, but work from the beach. And it's Lily, the red-headed vamp, as you've never seen her before. I don't know who she is. And The Independent, 30,000 babies at risk from a deadly virus. So give us the vaccine now. That's the story. The government delays to the rollout of life-saving RSV vaccine will hospitalise thousands, cancel operations and pile pressure on waiting lists. Babies could be needlessly hospitalised this winter because the government has delayed a vaccine that protects them from a life-threatening virus. That's according to Royal College of Paediatricians and the Child Health President. It's just worrying, that's the thing, worrying. Front of the Independent. Concrete scandal. Jeremy Hunt vows to spend whatever it takes to fix the crumbling schools. But only the money we've already got. Save our staff, says the Metro. Tesco boss calls for a law change as 850 workers a day suffer violence and abuse. In a supermarket? Dear God. I mean, it's a balmy place, isn't it, the world? Who goes to the supermarket for a fight? You go to the supermarket for some beans and stuff. I don't know what you buy. What do I buy in the supermarket? Oh, it costs a lot of money. Okay, what did I get today? Well, newspapers. I got them from the supermarket today. Shed load of newspapers. Sunday's killer. I wonder I've not got a hump on my back. Oh, my God. Or something worse. And I got a load of papers and some ice cream. Rather a surprise for you, I guess. Some papers, some ice cream, some courgettes, because mine were crap this year. I mean, absolute crap. Oh, listen. In the greenhouse, I could open a shop with tomatoes. They're coming to the end now, but honestly, we must have about 4 gallons of tomato soup in the freezer. Anyway, that's fine. The tomatoes were brilliant. Everything else, crap. Peppers, 2 on one plant, both rotted overnight. What? 2 on the other plant, rotted the following night. I don't know what caused that. I've no idea. It must have been a disease. Don't know. But the interesting thing is aubergines. Right? I've grown aubergines. It's the first time I've grown them in this greenhouse, but I've grown aubergines for years. I love them. And, you know, they're weird when you grow them yourself. Sometimes they're a lot more firm than when you get in the shops. But that's all right. You cook them, they're not firm anymore. But the aubergine, you know what an aubergine looks like? You know, it looks like a giant teardrop, doesn't it? Yeah, that's pretty good, that. But it does. It looks like a giant purple teardrop. Not mine. Oh, no. No. They tasted the same, but my aubergines, you know them, are they called churros that you can buy at the fair? And they're like donuts, but long and thin. You know what I mean? That's what my aubergines are like. They're about 9 inches long and thin. They're about 1 inch thick. Perhaps not even that. Perhaps even a centimetre thick. 1 inch thick. Now, you know, I thought, well, it might kill me. I'll find out. And I only got 7 of them anyway. And I chopped one up into inches and did a bit of tomato, plenty of them beggars, as I said, and a bit of leek and a lot too much garlic, and they were fabulous. They just tasted like aubergine always tastes. But I've never seen aubergine like this. Something's going on in my greenhouse. I don't know what it is. And if I find out, I might keep it with the aubergines and the tomatoes, but everything else I'm going to have to work on. Everything else, rubbish the lot. But that worked well. The tomatoes, great. Got a couple of them split, but, you know, that happens. But the aubergines, has anybody else had that? Has anybody else had long, thin aubergine? Because they're called, you know, the Americans call them eggplants. In fact, they used to be white. I've grown white ones. They weren't as good, actually, but that's probably just my growing. But these are called eggplant. You wouldn't call these eggplants. You'd call them, I don't know, snake plants. They were like snakes. They were, honestly. And they were tasty and all of that. Is it a hybrid? Is it something I've done wrong? Something I've not done? Or is it a type of aubergine? Is there long, thin aubergines? Because I've never seen them before. Anyway, there you are. That's my garden this year has been a bit tricky, should we say. But I went away for a month the neighbours did the watering and all of that, but I was gone for a month, and you can't, well, encourage them. I mean, the tomatoes, brilliant. The potatoes were all right. I grew some potatoes in bags, and they weren't as good as last year, but they were all right. But then I always harvest them early, because I don't want giant ones. I'm not going to make baked potato with stuff straight out the ground. I want to taste them. I mean, you do a baked potato because you bought this huge spud the size of a dog's head, and you microwave it for a day and a quarter, and then you eat it with a bit of butter. It's all right, But it'd be a waste of a nice potato, wouldn't it, that? It's like chips. You don't make chips with new potatoes. It's just stupid. You lose the flavour. You just end up with this crunchy crap. Anyway, enough. And my carrots were a nightmare. My carrots were like little boys' willies. I'm sorry, but they were. Honestly, it was. How many have I seen? I've seen a few. I used to be a nurse. Anyway, and we've got nephews and nieces and all that lot with babies, but my carrots were little boys' willies. No. I behave. So they weren't a big success. The aubergines were weird. The potatoes were all right. And the tomatoes, dear God, as I say, I could have opened a shop. Right, well, that's us done for tonight. We are, of course, back Saturday night, 10 o'clock. And for how long, everybody keeps asking me, and I don't know. But there is something I wanted to do. And last night, a lady came on, and she talked about a poem called The Man He Killed by Thomas Harding. It's about a soldier who kills another soldier in battle. And this is the poem. It's only short. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have sat down to wet, right many a nipperkin. But ranged as infantry and staring face to face, I shot at him, he shot at me, and killed him in his place. I shot him dead because he was my foe, just so, my foe, of course he was, that's clear enough, although he thought he'd enlist perhaps, off-hand like, just as I was out of work, had sold his traps, no other reason why. Yes, quaint and curious war is, you shoot a fella down, you treat him, if met, where any bar is, or help to half a crown. Yeah, it could have been better read, I'll grant you that. But it's interesting, isn't it? People are at war. Can you imagine the situation in 50 years' time? Ukrainian bloke, Russian bloke, going to the match together and suddenly saying, God, I came here in such and such when the war was on. And the other fella saying, yes, so did I.
This is Anna Cunningham. Some schools in England and Scotland will remain closed today due to safety concerns. Over 100 have been forced to shut completely or partially because of the use of a faulty concrete known as wrack. The Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, has said the government will spend what it takes to make them safe, but the last-minute decision's been widely criticised by teachers and parents. Chris White is a former Conservative special advisor, now head of advocacy at the consultancy firm SE Newgate.
Exactly what was available and clear in 2018 and what was warned to schools, and clearly advice has changed over a period of time. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from the Secretary of State in terms of getting the message out and being a lot clearer with what's happening with schools, which shouldn't be happening just 24 to 48 hours before schools go back. Teachers and parents and staff are turning up and not knowing whether they're able to get into buildings or not.
Sir Keir Starmer is expected to reshuffle his shadow cabinet later as MPs return to Westminster. There is speculation about what additional role might be given to his deputy Angela Rayner, but it's not thought he will make any major changes to his senior team. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is replacing his defence minister, calling it time for a new approach. Alexei Reznikov was in post since before the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine last February. The BBC's diplomatic correspondent Paul Adams says it will surprise some.
Yes, it does seem strange. Mr. Reznikov was a popular figure on the international scene, very much an ambassador for Ukraine, present at all those meetings at which he lobbied hard for Ukraine to receive the kind of equipment that has gradually been handed over. But after a year and a half of war, Mr. Zelensky has said the time has come to try some new blood.
An investigation's been launched into the death of one person during torrential rain at the Burning Man Festival in the US state of Nevada. Thousands remain stranded after the bad weather turned the ground to deep, slippery mud. The BBC's David Willis is there.
This week-long festival transforms a remote area of northwestern Nevada into a sprawling desert city. But even before the event got underway, organisers were dealing with flooding caused by the remnants of Hurricane Hillary. Burning Man culminates with a large wooden effigy being set alight. Depending on the weather, that may not happen for several more days.
In the US Open tennis, Coco Gauff has underlined her credentials as one of the favourites with a gutsy victory over Caroline Wozniacki to reach the quarter-finals. The 19-year-old American had to come from a breakdown in the third set to win 6-3, 3-6, 6-1. BBC News, it's 3 minutes.